Yeah, break it down. What? Yeah. We've done it again. Glory be and mercy me. We've done it yet again. Here we are, streaming away. Another stream. I'll tell you what, I woke up this morning. I felt sick as sick can be. I don't think I've got anything. But I definitely, I think it's the heat. I think the overwhelming heat is just, absolutely killing me. My good little boy right here, Mr. Milo. I don't know if you can see him. Oh, your goopy little eyes. Yeah, your goopy little eyes. Yeah. He's here with us today. Right? Hey, Milo, you want to come say hi? Yes. Grumble, grumble, grumble. I know, you don't like it when I do that. Okay. I know. Okay. I know. Why did I do it? I did it so people could see your beautiful face. Yeah, there you are. Yes, Comrade Milo. Yes. Hey, Barnabas, how you doing, bud? You're the first one in today. Look at you. You beat the crowds. You beat the hordes. Good to see you. I wanted to start today by talking about President Trump's raid, right? I feel like there's a lot of energy, right? There's a lot of energy going around right now because people are losing their minds about Mar-a-Lago being raided, right? Here's a tweet from Mike Pence. I share the deep concern of millions of Americans over the unprecedented search of the personal residence of President Trump. No former president of the United States has ever been subject to a raid of their personal residence in American history. Yeah, but FBI raided APSP, so now it happens to Trump and everyone is mad now. I am more or less of the opinion that this is theater. I don't think that this is something that is going to be shaping. I could be proven wrong. Who knows? Maybe the FBI will suddenly be like, we're pressing charges against Donald Trump for his X, Y, and Z, right? Boebert cancels the FBI. Yeah, that's their response to all this, right? Defund the FBI, we're going to go against the FBI now, and all this kind of stuff. Biden was not informed ahead of time, supposedly. I mean, Biden's not really part of any of this, right? He's not really here, honestly. Biden is literally a figurehead. He's not part of this reality anymore. He's a face, exclusively. Oh, of course, it'll be very polarizing. No, that's why we're talking about it, Ligandes. But I am talking about it explicitly and exclusively from the position of theater. That, yes, it will be very polarizing. As a piece of theatrics, it will be very polarizing. As a piece of political art, right? It will have that effect. Do I believe the FBI is legitimately, invading this place to find legitimate, Are they going to put Donald Trump on trial? Is there going to be any of that kind of stuff that happens? No, I don't think so. I'd be very, very surprised to see it from that perspective. Yeah, get your popcorn and enjoy it, but the people who are reporting on this as a legitimate or real political moment, right, have kind of fooled themselves, if you ask me. That they are viewing the WWE politics as politics. And what it's really going to do, if you ask me, is blow up bad on the Democrats. I think that it's going to really, really galvanize a lot of Americans against the Democrats because this sort of thing, it just isn't done. Right? You don't, for people who still believe in the office of the presidency and for people who still believe in the legitimacy of the system, right? This is something that is untoward. You don't do this sort of thing. That The president's office stands above all other offices, and for them to do this, there's a lot of how dare you coming out of the populace. Hey, Anemone, how you doing? Boebert chomps trouser loaves with those teeth. Her mouth is the perfect shape to receive queries. What the hell? What the hell are you talking about, Con? What the hell are you talking about? And confession time. I am in love with Lauren Boebert. I am. I think she's just like a hottie bagatti. I like the way she sounds. I would date Lauren Boebert in a minute. I wouldn't even think about it. I'd be like, hey, Lauren, you want a date? And she'd be like, sure. And I'd be like, all right, amazing. Right? Do I think that she's a weirdo? Yeah. Yeah. Like, Lauren Boebert's a weirdo, for sure. But she could be my weirdo. Yeah. I have no problem saying this. Right? The heart wants what the heart wants. She looks like she eats actual shit. Oh, trouser loaves. Okay. I get you now. Compton's just like, nah, I gotta spell this out for John. I just gotta put, like, no, I'm trying to be, elusive or coming out of that kind of thing. Dobby vibes. We get Dobby vibes? Okay, let's do this. We're doing this, everybody. We're doing this. Lauren Boebert. No, she's got her, like, a Sarah Palin vibe about her. And you guys know what I think about Sarah Palin. Right? You guys know my views on Sarah Palin. Nah, she's just a hottie bagatti. Like, she is. She's a little weirdo. Hope you like gun range dates. I will go on any date with Lauren Boebert. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Okay. Now we're really gonna get into it here. Let's pick a good picture here. Let's pick a nice picture of Lauren Boebert. Right? Here's a nice picture of this little weirdo. Right? This total weirdo Lauren Boebert. Right? Here she is. Looking real great. Good for you, Lauren. What a great picture, right? And now we're gonna go Dobby. Let's get a nice picture of Dobby, right? Here. This is a nice picture of Dobby. Yeah, passionate, right? Focused. Good picture of Dobby here. So we got Dobby. Yeah, we got Dobby. We got Lauren Boebert. I don't know, bro. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Like, Dobby's got blue eyes. She's got brown eyes, right? I see it a bit in the nose. I kind of see what you're saying. People compared Putin to Dobby. That's way closer, dude. Yes. Now we're talking. Are you kidding me? That's perfect. Putin. Yeah. Absolutely. Putin and Dobby? Are you kidding me? Look at this. This is great. Yes. Vladimir Putin is Dobby. I knew it was a mistake to give Dobby that sock. Oh, I knew it. Everybody was like, oh, he got freedom. Now we see the consequences. You can't give house elves their freedom, guys. Right? They'll take over a country and invade Ukraine. Yeah, she's got chiclet teeth. Look, I'm not defending it. I'm not sitting here saying, I love Lauren Boebert and you should too. I'm not sitting here trying to pretend as though I'm a good person. Or that, like, I even like Lauren Boebert as a person. All I'm saying is that when I see Lauren Boebert, I go, oh, yes, please. She could be mine. Like Wayne from Wayne's World, right? She will be mine. Oh, yes. She will be mine. Right? Like, and most importantly, for all of you playing at home, I'm not defending myself. All of the judgment that you have right now towards me for this, I agree. You are right. It is shameful. It is absolutely shameful. You've never heard of Lauren Boebert? Oh, DM, Lauren Boebert is one of the great weirdos of American politics today. She's like a dumber Sarah Palin. Yeah, she's stupider than Sarah Palin for sure. Right? Yeah, absolutely. I give you permission. This is how settled I am on this issue, okay? Absolutely. You feel free to just constantly say, yeah, I like John, but this Lauren Boebert thing, what a fucking idiot. You're right. You're absolutely right. I will not defend myself. I will not. Yeah, Lauren Boebert, DM, is like one of the weirdos from the Republican Party. She's one of the TrueAnon weirdos. She's like with or QAnon rather weirdos. She's with like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who Marjorie Taylor Greene is like you want to see like the true weirdo, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene. I misspelled her name for sure. Like this is like, what a weirdo. Like a weirdo's weirdo. She's not like a surrogate or anything, but like they're on the same team, right? They're on the same team. You're calling the police? Well, I'm fucked now. I have no defense. She looks like a Titan. Like from Attack on Titan? Is that what you saying? Yeah, Green is a Karen. Yeah, absolutely. Boebert gives me like Beaver vibes. Yeah, and I think that Green is probably smarter than Boebert. Like, I get big follower vibes from Boebert, right? Boebert's just like there because she saw the path and somebody like put her on the path, right? Anyway, what a weirdo conversation we're having. So, to conclude, John's weird. Yes, I like Attack on Titan. Dude, I can't watch Attack on Titan anymore. I saw the first season of it, and it, like, gave me just disturbing nightmares. And so somebody was like, hey, do you want to watch season 2? And I was like, nah. Taylor Greene and Alex Jones, what a combo. Yeah, exactly, dude, exactly. And very much like what's going on with Alex Jones, like the whole Sandy Hook trial and all this kind of stuff, I think this raid is just a part of theater, right? Your attraction to her sounds like self-harm. Yeah, well, what do I always say, right? We are our own worst enemies, you know? We're self-destructive, right? Yeah, I can't believe John is attracted to females. Gross. I love admitting this stuff to you guys. It's my absolute favorite. Like, I love telling you guys that, like, here is a terrible person who I would love to take to dinner. I can't explain it, okay? I can't explain it, right? It's just who I am as a person, okay? It's just who I am as a person, and if you can forgive me for that, then we do okay, right? We do okay. At least I'm honest. So all I'm trying to say about this Trump thing, right, is that I don't think it's real. I don't think it matters, right? Like best case scenario for anyone, the FBI will find something that they'll use to bribe Trump later to get something they want, right? The FBI is one of the large, the FBI and the CIA are two of the largest terrorist organizations on the planet. They don't really respond to any other organization, right? They've gone rogue, if you like. Like, they don't care what the president or the Congress or the Senate or the Supreme Court or anything says. They're their own institution with their own power structure. And if they are invading Mar-a-Lago, it's explicitly to increase their own power profile. They're not interested in concepts like justice or truth or any of that. Like, they don't care about any of that. They care about maintaining power and manipulating positions of power in order to get what they want. And so they're going to Mar-a-Lago and they're kicking in the door and they're doing a raid and opening up the safe and all that kind of stuff so that when they need to, they can hang it in front of Trump and say, sign this document or else. That's it. That's all they're doing, right? Like, I'd be... If it does turn out like, if it does turn out that they take the information they have and they actually use it to actually put forward a case against Trump and actually take it into courts, I'll be blown away. And I'll eat my words. I'll eat my words for sure. I will absolutely sit in front of you guys and be like, oh, hey, I was wrong. Looks like they are actually trying to do something with Trump. I don't know why they would do that, right? Because it's going to blow up in their faces if they do that. Like, Donald Trump is likely going to be the next president. He's likely going to win this next election. It's far more likely that will happen than any other result. I'm not saying it's a shoo-in because, you know, it is as it is. And them even raiding Mar-a-Lago is very galvanizing. Like, it's going to galvanize people in the Republican Party, for sure. But how can I tell that it's all just theater? Because all of these Republicans who are losing their minds about it, it's always the same thing, right? This is an affront and a catastrophe, and what is this, a third world country? Oh my God, it's such a disaster. Holy cow, you just got to go out there and vote. So we're going to take all of this energy and we're going to get the rhetoric up to a point where it's like, we need a revolt and a revolution, and oh my God, we got to fight back. And then they're going to take all that and funnel it right back into the system, right? Just funnel all that energy right back into this dead, calcified, theatrical system that no longer responds to anything, that no longer responds to the needs of the public, right? Galvanized through division. Exactly, Matt Dunn. Exactly. Get people to focus on the theater, right? Turn the theater into politics. Or turn your politics into theater. Get people... So, what did I say, right? It's bread and circuses. How do you control a populace? Bread and circuses, right? Bread and circuses, bread and circuses. Well, what's the circus? This is the circus, right? If you can galvanize the populace and mobilize them and get them all focused in on, oh, did you hear the FBI did a raid on Mar-a-Lago? Oh my God, the Sandy Hook trial with Alex Jones, right? It has the veneer of politics. It looks as though you are engaged in the political system, right? But you're not, right? Because the true politics in American and Canadian society is not between these two parties, right? That's not the true politics. The true politics is between the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. It's between the poor and the rich. That's the true politics that exists in these countries. And so when we're presented with these stories of Trump being invaded or Sandy Hook or whatever, it's a way to legitimize the party theater as politics when it's just theater. And it's the same story with like Hunter Biden's laptop. It's the same story with the Benghazi emails. It's the same story with all of that, right? It's just a way to funnel the attention of the populace away from the actual political structure in the society into this inert dead end of theatrical politics. And so I'm like, there are other commentators like Hassan. Hassan's going crazy over this, right? Like, he's doing huge amounts of content on this. Like, if you really want to watch a lot of content on this subject, go watch Hassan. He's doing hours of it, right? He's just like losing his mind about it. And I consider it to be more or less diversionary, right? Just more or less, like, it's amusing, right? It's amusing. There's an amusement to it, right? But it's not meaningful or real. It doesn't really matter. And even if they get them, right? Even if they get them, right? They peg Donald Trump to the wall. They take him and they throw him in prison. Justice is served, right? Whole thing doesn't matter. Does it fundamentally change the structure of the Republican Party? Does it fundamentally change the relationship between the structure and the society? Is there a fundamental catharsis that's going to occur? Does American society change at all, even for the worse, right? Or the better because of any of this? No, of course not. Right? It's a meaningless non-event that is being presented to us as something that really, really matters. And it will be forgotten the minute Will Smith slaps another guy, right, or something, right? The right thing will inevitably shift to the completely wrong thing. Always happens. There is no possibility of the right thing anymore. Yeah, I mean, it's all just chaos, right? What happened to Hillary's bleached emails and Hunter's laptop? Yep, she switched to Hotmail. Hilarious. Buttery mails. Cotton Man, you're hilarious. I've never seen it written out like that. I just said it because you wrote butter emails, and it wasn't until I read it out loud that I was like, oh, but her emails. Buttery mails. Yay. Buttery mails. Well, this is turning into a very sexy stream. We're getting sexy in this stream today. We got Lauren Boebert. Someone was talking before. Abby Martin. Mwah. Magnificent. Yeah. The worst thing that Abby Martin did was get married and have a kid. Boo! Boo! How dare you be happy? How dare you find your own personal joy? And now we've got buttery mails. Perfect. Even Proton I do not trust. It's better than many. Just encrypt at the source. It's the only way to be sure until quantum computers become more popular anyhow. It's all a wash. We're not going to be able to hide anything. Amanda Lang? I have no idea who Amanda Lang is. I have no idea who that is. Okay, we're moving on from this nonsense. This is from the Financial Post. David Rosenberg, right? Roof is about to cave in on the Canadian economy. Yeah? Anyone hear the horrific news from London, Ontario today? Oh, please do share, Adam. Incisive, good to see you. The Society of the Spectacle by Guy Debord is an essential read on the theatrical of politics. Fantastic. With the Bank of Canada's aggressive rate hike cycle well underway, despite a shaky residential real estate sector and high levels of household debt, it's no secret that we believe the Canadian economy is headed for a more pronounced recession than many are calling for. But just how vulnerable is the overall economy to a collapse in the housing market? Our analysis indicates that a reversion to the mean with respect to housing-related consumption expenditures and residential investment would lead to a 1.4% drop in real gross domestic product. And keep in mind that this is a best-case scenario, since a pullback after years of excess typically leads to such measures going through the mean to the downside. How's that for a phrase, eh? Leads to such measures going through the mean to the downside. That sounds like hip-hop lyrics somehow. Through the mean to the downside. In addition, a normalization of employment in the construction industry could lead to up to a 1.4 percentage point jump in the unemployment rate to 6.3% from the current level of 4.9%. Carnage could be much more severe than even we anticipate. While these figures are concerning, to say the least, the carnage could be much more severe than even we anticipate, given that household balance sheets remain in poor shape and that the economy's exposure to the real estate market is near all-time highs, with real estate as a share of disposable income at a record 563% and the share of new mortgages with variable interest rates at 55%. In recent decades, the housing market's share of GDP has been steadily gaining ground, with the combination of real estate-related consumption expenditures and residential investment rising to 11.4% today from a trough of 7.7% in 1995. So, let's be really clear about something. If your housing market, which shouldn't exist in the first place, there should be no such thing as a housing market. It's an abomination that there is such a thing as a housing market. But if your housing market is starting to gain in GDP, that's really, really bad, right? It's really, really bad because all it is, you're not creating anything, right? It's fake, right? It's not real economic growth. It doesn't matter. Literally all it is shuffling properties around. You're taking a piece of paper and you're shuffling it around for higher and higher amounts of value, right, in what is a pyramid scheme, right? You're shuffling it around and pretending like that's growth, right? Like that's why this whole thing is such a farce. And so for it to be representing so heavily now, as opposed to what it was in the past, even though the whole thing shouldn't fucking exist, is ridiculous, right? And when the whole thing crashes, which watch them not actually bring this up, right? When the whole thing crashes, who are the beneficiaries going to be? It's not going to be you or me, right? Because they're going to raise the interest rate to like 5, 12, 11,000%. They're going to raise the interest rate through the roof, right? So you and I are not going to be able to borrow any money. Well, guess who has the money, right? And then the housing prices will come down, but guess who's going to buy, right? It's not you or me. Why aren't we going to buy? Because the interest rate's so fucking high, right? And why do the prices plummet? Because people who have mortgages now have to pay this ridiculous interest rate, and they're forced to sell because they can't pay the interest rate anymore. So they're forced to sell, so the prices come down. The billionaire class takes their properties and keeps them because they're billionaires. They don't care about this interest rate. They don't give a shit at all, right? And then what do? When the prices come down, they buy up the property. That's what's happening. And are these guys going to report on that? No, obviously not. These guys exist to protect that, right? They exist to create a narrative in order to protect the billionaire class from being exposed, right? That if the populace actually finds out what's happening and realizes what's happening in a more serious way, they might demand that it end, right? So you need to create narratives, which I'm sure we're going to read just here. We're going to create a narrative that pretends as though there's something else going on, or obfuscates the narrative so heavily with language like this, right? The GDP went over an invasive ratio of 11.4% over 15 years, right? You just fill it with nonsense. Hey, Mock, how you doing, bud? I was thinking about you the other day. I feel like I haven't seen you in the chat in a long time. Good to see you, bud. And while the housing market nationwide has undergone an extended bull run, we believe the current rate hiking cycle by the Bank of Canada, combined with weak fundamentals, are likely to take their toll in the coming months. We decided to skim through the history books and assess what the hit to real GDP would be should these two key housing-sensitive components revert to the long-run mean. You see what I'm saying? Right? Like, they can't just talk like fucking human beings. They've got to obfuscate what they're saying, right? That they've got to, like, what they say is probably accurate, but they've obfuscated it behind this ridiculous language so that regular citizens look at it and go like, well, I guess that makes sense, when it doesn't. Or if it does make sense, it's meaning the opposite of what they're telling you. Good to see you too, Yeti. Good to see you. So glad that you guys are all in chat, man. I gotta say, I'm gonna say it. Hey, Grinning, how you doing, bud? I'm so happy that you guys are in the chat, man. I was just talking to somebody who's trying to stream, and they were just telling me how, like, yeah, I closed my stream down and, like, nobody's there, right? And I was trying to tell them, like, just keep at it, just keep at it. You'll build a base. You'll figure it out, right? And I'm so grateful that you guys are here. I'm so grateful that there's always somebody on the other side of this. Like, it's so nice to know. Good opportunity to say like, share, subscribe, do all the things, right? Hitting the like button actually matters, right? Hitting the like button actually matters, right? How the algorithm works is that it asks my subscribers and my viewers first, is this good content? And if my subscribers and my viewers say yes, it is good content, then YouTube actually starts suggesting it to other people. That is how it actually works. And so if you guys hit like, if you guys hit share, then the algorithm goes, oh, this is good. This is gonna let's oh, there are other people in the world who are interested in political commentary. Let's suggest this to them, right? And then you just get randos who just wander on in and then say things like, capitalism's the greatest, you're a loser, and then leave, or go yawn and then leave, right? And every so often you get somebody who's actually interested and asks a question. And then every so often, you find somebody who's deeply in love with you. The algorithm is not to be trusted. Yes, of course. No, I mean, like, it's a robot, right? It doesn't have any feelings. Anyway, we can get into a larger thing like this, right? Okay. As for consumption component of the equation, housing-related expenditures would have to fall to a 5.3% share of consumption from 6.1%, while residential investment would have to be pared back to 32% of overall investment from 36%. All in, these two declines combined would lead to a 1.4% drop in real GDP. That said, as mentioned above, we believe this is a fairly conservative estimate. It's hardly likely that these measures will simply mean revert after years of overheating. A similar narrative has unfolded within the confines of the labor market, as we've seen a vast increase in the proportion of construction employment as a share of total employment over the past few decades as well, rising from approximately 5% in mid-1998 to 7.9% now. Like, they're from a current, blah, blah, blah. Like, they're telling you, like, these numbers, but they're not telling you what any of it means, right? There's also several additional factors that will likely accentuate the damage from a housing market collapse and ensure that the impacts are widespread. I'm just going to jump to the conclusion. As a result, we remain steadfast in our belief that the Canadian economy is headed for trouble and that the Bank of Canada's monetary policy tightening campaign will be stopped dead in its track or even reverse course before year's end. Our advice is to steer clear of the loonie and remain bearish on real estate-related retailers and home improvement. Like, these guys don't care that they're collapsing the economy, right? They're trying to tell you how to make as much money as you can in an economy that they're collapsing. Like, they don't care about us at all, right? They don't care about us at all. Ugh. Miss the walk around videos. Yeah, man, I do too, honestly. I do too. I was going to do one today, but I woke up and I was feeling really sick. And so I just couldn't do it. And tomorrow I'm gonna really push for it and really, because there's stuff to talk about. Like, there's all kinds of stuff to talk about. Just as earlier industrial capitalism moved the focus of existence from being to having, post-industrial culture has moved that focus from having to appearing. Guide to board. For email, I've actually heard good things about Disroot. My guy's here. He wants to play. He's got his little toy here. So if you're hearing growling, that's what that is. Also, if you're hearing growling, it's Milo revolting against the proletariat, or the bourgeoisie. That's right, Milo. Fight the power. Fight the power. Yeah, we're fucked, John. Is that what you're trying to say? Of course. Of course. A 16-year-old refugee from Senegal was shot and killed by police in Dorman with a submachine gun. Okay, buddy. Okay. You want to go get it? You want to go get it? Sorry, guys. Have to do a puppy break, apparently. Have to do a puppy break. Puppy break. Puppy break. Puppy. Yep, the Nazi Party of Ukraine says they're not Nazis. Oh, yeah. Adam got a story on Discord. What's happening here? On August 5th, I was woken up with an assault rifle pointed at me and arrested for a crime I didn't commit. Sorry, mate, can I get, like, a synopsis of this? Like, it's unfortunate that that's happening to this person, but I don't know who this person is. Someone passed the joint, exactly. You have been part of my daily briefing for over a year now. I'm glad to hear it, Nova Scotia. Wouldn't it be lovely if housing was like tulip bulbs, but there was always a demand for housing? And you can, if you can restrict the supply of housing to something lower than demand, profits galore. Yep. It doesn't matter that you're generating it doesn't matter that you're generating homelessness, right? It doesn't matter that you're hurting people. I'm sorry, guys. Milo is ready to go. Milo's ready to go. We're all just enjoying each other's presence here, right? Solidarity, Milo. Exactly. It's because he's like, John's talking to somebody. Keffels is a non-binary Twitch streamer who was arrested in London, Ontario. For what? For what? Just straight up, like, having the door kicked in. For what? Remember, John, food and shelter are not human rights, so of course it's okay to withhold housing. Exactly. Yeah, it's totally normal, right? Completely normal society. Like, I would completely argue. I would completely argue that food and shelter being withheld is literally a sign that you don't live in a society, right? Like, we're not attempting to build a civilization here. We're not attempting to create something that lasts or is long. We're basically just treating the society as like a way to exploit and get personal profit, right? That we view society as a business exclusively, that there is no concept of civilization. There is no concept of any kind of longer term anything. Did you increase the gain on your mic? Milo's barks are pretty ear-splitting. No, sorry, dude. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I'm trying to calm him down. He's lying here now. Sorry, guys. I know. No, he's been really, like... I think what's happened to Milo recently is we were overfeeding him, and so he got fat. And now we started to feed him properly, and so he's lost a lot of weight. Right? He's looking really good, actually, nice and trim. But it's definitely like increased the amount of energy that he has and how much he can produce. And so he's gotten a lot more like playfully barky, right? So when you're playing with him, he's much more likely to like give a playful yelp, which he used to not do, because I think he was more like burr, burr, more like that, like a fat guy, right? Like a fat guy talking like that, right? So, sorry about your ears. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. Now he's sitting here happily licking away. I read the article on Keffels on Reddit. I don't remember why they were arrested. Yeah, like, I'm interested. Like, a Twitch streamer being arrested. Like, what's the charge? What's the crime? I don't know anything about this story. And if you guys are interested, I'd like to know, but... Milo woke up my cat. Good for you, Milo. You're changing the world. You're changing the world. Ran for Parliament as Communist Party of Canada. Oh yeah, okay. So shaping up to be one of these. I was swatted. London transgender activist decries arrest, seizure of devices. Yeah, like. Well, that's a free society. If you want to run for the Communist Party, you go ahead, right? Where's the communists? Like, if you guys are so popular, if you think your ideas are so good, how come nobody votes for you? I can't imagine why, right? Clara Sorrenti woke up with an assault rifle pointed in her face, and London police officers crowding inside her home. They told the influential online advocate for transgender activism that they were looking for a handgun, ammunition, cartridges, cleaning tools, cell phones, and computers. They placed her under arrest. For 11 hours on Friday, while officers seized her and her fiance's computers and homes, Sorrenti, 28, was in police custody. Held on possible gun and death threat charges, unable to contact loved ones, and interrogated over frightening emails purportedly, they said, written by her. I never sent any emails. I have no reason to threaten London. Anyone who knows me knows it's completely out of character for me, said the London transgender woman, known as Keffels in the online gaming world. Sorrenti said she is a victim of a swatting attack, where anonymous online trolls, often linked to the online gaming community, send false, malicious hoax messages, or make 9/11 calls that suggest a wide range of possible acts of violence, such as bomb threats, hostage situations, or potential shootings. The calls tie up police resources responding to a potential crisis and open up a target to unnecessary and sometimes extreme investigations. The emails the police linked to Sorrenti were full of grammatical errors and sent to every London city councillor. They included Sorrenti's name and address that warned that I killed my mother, I have an illegal firearm, and I plan to go to City Hall to shoot every cisgender person I see, she said. Cisgender refers to a person whose gender corresponds with their birth sex. Also in the emails was her dead name, the male name she was assigned at birth and that she changed more than a decade ago. In what she described really insulting to me, London police ignored her real name and used the dead name to book her into custody and scrawled it across the property bags returned to her when she was released at midnight with no charges. Not only did I get swatted, I get humiliated, she said, her voice wavering, adding that her treatment surmounted to human rights violations for discrimination of her gender identity. Sorrenti said guns and ammunition weren't found in the search, but London police still have her electronics, which has effectively stopped her from working as an online influencer, which is the point, incidentally. Her fiancé's devices were seized that contained her doctoral thesis. I've had to spend thousands of dollars replacing my computer because I would be functionally unemployed without it, Sorrenti said. Sorrenti is no stranger to political activism, having stood as a candidate in London for the Communist Party in the 2018 provincial election and the 2019 federal election. She's become a swatting target because of her popular Twitch and Twitter accounts, where in recent months she weaves together her gaming skills with commentary on emerging transgender issues, and has been particularly vocal about the recent transphobic laws enacted in many American states. Her voice has struck a chord. Her Twitch account has 43,000 followers, while her Twitter account is followed by more than 100,000 users. Her influence has become so far-reaching that she was the subject of a lengthy Washington Post feature at the end of June. But her views have charged up the transphobic hate. She's critical that the London police weren't aware that she had an online target on her back. I honestly believe that it is a case of police negligence, because this is not the first time this has happened to me, she said. On July 31st, just 5 days before her London home was searched, Toronto police contacted Sorrenti to advise her that someone was impersonating me in an email and making threats to Toronto politicians. Police had been sent to an address where the email, sent from Switzerland, said she lived. Sorrenti said the officer told her that it was a swatting attempt and I was not suspected or charged with any crime. The Toronto officer, she said, told her this week that he'd had no contact about the Toronto incident from London police. Toronto police confirmed that there is a report filed on July 31st identifying Sorrenti and involving threats. They advised it is an ongoing investigation and that no other information can be provided at this time, they wrote in an email. Late Tuesday afternoon, London police confirmed in an email that they had been contacted by London City Hall on Friday about letters threatening potential violence against individuals within City Hall later the same day. They confirmed they were granted a search warrant and arrested Sorrenti at her residence. She was released without charges, pending analysis of electronic devices seized. This investigation is ongoing, and at this point in time we cannot provide a firm date as to when it will conclude, the police said in an email, and added that a London police liaison has been in contact with Ms. Sorrenti to discuss the items seized and will work with her as we continue our investigation. Sorrenti said she's been left shaken and angry and plans to move. She said she remains a suspect and it could be weeks before she gets her property returned. On Tuesday, she posted a 6-minute video on YouTube and set up a GoFundMe page that had raised more than $31,000 by mid-afternoon. She hopes to recoup her financial losses so I can move immediately because there is no policy against swatting in the city. Sorrenti said she's also weighing her legal options. It's a very terrifying thought that someone can just use your name in a burner email, attach a photo of a gun, and then say they're going to shoot up City Hall, she said. And you get woken up to having an assault rifle pointed at you and spend 11 hours in custody without having done anything wrong and having no way of contacting your family or loved ones. The incident has left her needing to take a break. I know I want to continue doing what I'm doing, but I have to take a lot of time off. Time to myself and off work because this has been a very hard situation for me. I'm going to lose a lot of money from taking time off, she said, before taking a deep breath. I don't want to see this happen to anyone else in London or in Canada. This was terrifying. I thought I was going to die. Welcome to communism. Like, straight up. Like, they're going to do everything they can, like the media's going to do everything they can to turn this into like a trans issue, right? Which it is, certainly. But, like, she's running for the Communist Party, right? Like, she's a communist. This is what happens. The idea that some rando, so some cop, like a cop, can just go and send a bullshit email, right? Stir up the other cops, and they can use that as an impetus to run a SWAT on you, disrupt your life, steal your resources, steal your time, steal your computer, steal everything you need to actually do your job, right? And what's going to happen to them? Nothing, right? Nothing whatsoever. Like, you're telling me that the police force can't figure out, yeah, like random asshole sends random email threatening thing. We should probably treat it like that. Like, you're telling me the cops are so fucking dumb and incompetent and stupid that they can't go, oh, maybe this is just like some person who's trying to like go. No, better charge into someone's property, threaten them with violence, steal their property, disrupt their lives, right? Like, it's obviously a sting against a communist. That's obvious what this is, right? It's very black and white in my view that the cops planted evidence, right? Anemone, cops have been planting evidence forever, right? So the cops plant an email, right? They run an email thing to stir up enough, give enough controversy around it so that they can somewhat justify sort of the idea of kicking in this person's door and stealing their stuff, right? That's 100% what's happening here. And to pretend like anything else is happening is childish, right? It's just utterly childish. Because like any rational, sane law enforcement agent, if such a thing could exist, would literally like receive a report about like, oh, so we got this person's name is attached to this email, but this email's coming from Switzerland. This is obviously like the first thing that any law enforcement agent would think is, oh, this has got to be fake, right? This is somebody trying to fuck her up, right? Obviously. Like, obviously. It's got to be the first thing that you do. And the idea that instead of investigating that and being like, okay, well, we should investigate where did this come from, who actually sent this email, what's actually going on. No, let's get a bunch of guys together, kick in this person's door, and steal their stuff. Like, no, but they're not interested in doing research because they generated it themselves, right? This is my position and will remain the position until proven otherwise. That the cops generated the evidence themselves so that they could react to the evidence that they themselves generated. Like, that's what's happening. And they don't want communists in the society. They don't want more successful communists. They don't want communists running in office, right? And certainly not a trans communist, right? They certainly don't want that to happen. So what are they going to do? They're going to disrupt this woman's life. And it worked. It's worked completely. It's worked completely. So, no, I'll be talking more about this issue as it pertains, because it pertains to me as well, right? I've always assumed that should this channel gain any steam, should we get enough people, like this is happening to this person, and she's got what, 43 followers on Twitch, 43,000 followers on Twitch, right? So if I ever get up to there, I anticipate this kind of behavior, right? Like it's not like, it's unfortunate that it has happened to her, but if you're a communist, you should anticipate this. You should expect it. Like this should be normal. You should anticipate that cops are going to do this kind of thing to you, because cops are enemies of the populace, right? They don't operate for the benefit of the people. They operate for the benefit of themselves and their own power structure, right? What are you guys saying about this? London Free Press story, yeah. Real comrades won't judge you from your dog. Cats are better than dogs because cats would never be class traitors like cop dogs are. Gasp. Gasp, anemone. Cop dogs don't know anything about class. Cop dogs are literally just like, yeah, me and my buddy, we're going for a car ride. That's where they're at. Capitalism ended when the Canadian government got schools to indoctrinate students into not saying the N-word. It's a really odd thing to say, Mocked. I'm not going to lie, bud. Capitalism ended when the Canadian government got schools to indoctrinate students into not saying the N-word? I'm just going to move on from that, dude. Swatting, that should not happen. Obviously, police acting when they haven't verified anything properly. Yeah, scary for sure. And the idea that she has no recourse, right? This is so obviously like the cops generating evidence and then responding to the evidence they generated to maximize terror. Like, what is this but an act of terror, right? This is terrorism. Like, that's what this is. The London cops committed an act of terrorism against a Canadian citizen, and nothing's going to happen, right? None of these guys are going to be prosecuted. No one's going to stand up and say to them, like, hey, did you maybe verify any of this stuff before you did any of this? And most terrifyingly, apparently they can just do this, right? Apparently they can just straight up just like, yeah, we'll just swat somebody, right? What? They swat innocent people, but when reports are sent in about people who go on to commit crimes, yep, don't make it make sense. Yeah, gender issues, no, the gas. Yeah, the gaming community is reactionary as fuck, of course. Yeah, of course she's gonna get hit. Like, yeah. I don't think the police are very concerned with solving their swatting issues. They want that ability. Yeah, easy warrants and just bust in on anyone with that evidence. Yeah. I got this drama even without being a comedy. John's not saying cops need to react. It's that it will happen. Yeah, you'd think they'd do some research. Yeah, of course they did some research. They generated the thing themselves. They knew it, right? So they sent the email themselves, right? They created the evidence, and then they used the evidence that they created as the impetus to do the SWAT, right? That's what they did. Oh, you can't place any limits on police power. Yeah, what about criminals? They'll run rampant. Yeah, right. Meanwhile, the Greenwood shooter was actively posting alarming content on Reddit, which was reported to the FBI, and they did nothing. Yeah. No, the American police force is even worse. The Uvalde situation, right, down in the States. If you're not convinced that the police are not there to actually protect the populace from the Uvalde thing, I don't know what to tell you. Like, they're not interested in helping people. They're not interested in protecting people. They are a club. Like, they're literally a boys' club, right? It's like they're a shooting club. That's it. They exist to protect capital in the interests of capital exclusively. That's what they're there to do. They're not going to charge into dangerous situations. They're not going to try to suppress shooters. They're not trying to react to any of that. They're not interested in any of that. That's not what they're there to do, right? They're not there to stop school shootings, right? Like, that doesn't matter to them, right? And because school shootings don't matter to the capitalist class, right? School shootings are actually good for the capitalist class because they sell more guns that way, right? And they're a great way to have the populace suppress itself, right? Like, a populace that is experiencing mass shootings like this is one that can't organize, right? And if it does organize, you can just, like, bank on the ideas that, like, these kids will just start shooting up the place, right? Like, this is where the Americans are in terms of their domestic and foreign strategy, right? That they are sitting here saying out loud over and over and over again, if we can't benefit from it, then you can't have it either, right? And they're basically just saying chaos will reign. Let people destroy themselves, right? Like, what's going on in Ukraine, right? The whole situation, as far as I'm concerned, is just the Americans being like, well, we can't let the Russians actually build up this territory and actually have it and utilize it, so we're just going to destroy it. That's what they're doing, right? And what are they doing in the Middle East? Well, we can't let the Russians and the Chinese, like, build this up. We can't let an Ottoman Empire rise up. We can't allow the people of the Middle East to actually stabilize. So we're just going to destroy it, right? That if it's destroyed, it can't be utilized. Like, that's how the Americans think. And it's no different domestically, right? Because while the populace is caught up in, like, oh, did you hear the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago? The FBI made it blah, 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 blah. Well, the rich don't care about that at all, right? Because the rich understand how politics actually works. that it's the rich versus the poor. It's the proletariat versus the bourgeoisie. They understand that, right? They don't give a shit about, oh, the FBI invaded Trump. Like, I guess as a novelty, they might be like, oh, ho, ho, titter, titter, right? Like, they'll smirk and be like, what an embarrassment for Trump, ho, ho, ho. But they don't care. Like, it doesn't matter, right? Like, and they don't care about the school shooters. They don't care about any of this, right? They only care about it insofar as it keeps the proletariat disorganized and terrified, which is the goal. Like, that's the whole goal, is to keep the proletariat disorganized and terrified, right? They don't want workers to be able to form up. They don't want workers' unions. They don't want any of that shit. They're not interested in that, right? They're not trying to build a civilization. They're not trying to build a society. They're just trying to make as much money as they possibly can. And if that means terrorizing trans people in their own homes, that's exactly what they're going to do. That's exactly what they're going to do, right? The police exist to terrorize the populace. That's why they exist. Yeah, swatting is very expensive, like corporate meetings. They honestly should be using some form of vetting before they make the expenditure. Yeah. No, but I mean, it's the perfect way. Like, you create a wall, right? You fund people with guns to beat up homeless people and trans people, right? And pretend as though this is building a civilization of some kind, right? Once I'm on PWD, no one's getting my new address. Yeah, knee on your neck to death. Liberal lie of the day, anti-union Reagan was a leader of the Union of Actors. It's only terrorism when you're brown. It's amazing what more people don't know to blame capitalism, despite the media and both major parties are explicitly capitalist. Hegemony misdirects blame. Yeah. Get people to talk about anything. Literally anything. Any wedge works, right? Good to see you, by the way, Demand Batter. Like, why is there this upswell of energy surrounding people like Andrew Tate? Why is there this battle of the sexes, right? Men versus women, all this kind of stuff. Why is it a constant refrain? Because if men and women are fighting, then they're not unifying and fighting against the proletariat. And it's, from the capitalist perspective, it's literally create any battle. Any battle. Any wedge counts, right? So if they can create a wedge on between black people and white people, they'll do it. If they can create a wedge between women and men, they'll do it. If they can do it between gay people and straight people, they'll do it, right? Any wedge that they can find. Anything counts. Get the populace to talk about literally anything other than even the existence of the bourgeoisie, right? And they're very effective at it. They know how to do it, right? Puts being down with OPP in a new light, yeah. Verify, what does that word mean? Hashtag ACAB. I don't know what word you're talking about here, but yeah, capitalism in Canada is dead now. Yeah, like, what we are experiencing is fascism. Like, I don't, like, Mussolini said it best, right? That fascism is best called corporatism because it's the merger of business and state, right? So what's happening, right? What's happening right now? You've got the state subsidizing huge industry, bailing out industry in huge and significant ways while abandoning the populace. The nomenclature has become, it's socialism for the rich and rugged individual capitalism for the poor. Or, as it's best known, fascism. That's, in my view, that is how fascism operates. That if you are propping up the wealthy through the power of the state while abandoning the poor, you're in a fascist society. Pretty black and white, if you ask me. And the idea that the rich need to play by the rules of capitalism is gone, long gone, right? Like, this whole idea that, like, oh, our business model failed, and oh no, that means we've got to sell off assets and collapse. Oh god, and a competitor will come up and blah blah blah. That's done. It's over. Doesn't exist anymore, right? That to call North America a capitalist society at this point is a joke. If it was a capitalist society, there would have been lots of businesses that folded during COVID. There would have been lots of businesses. During the 2008 financial collapse, a lot of these big banks, but what did they say? They're too big to fail. So what did they do? They bailed them out, right? They can, literally, we have seen over this period of time, over this COVID period, a transfer of wealth from the middle class and the poor to the wealthy, right? It has been explicitly an extraction. There's no other way to describe it. It's not. We're not sitting here experiencing. We've got to prop up these businesses because they actually offer a service. Or no, they don't. Like, no, they fucking don't. Right? If they actually offered a service, they wouldn't be failing. Right? But they don't offer a service. Their service is literally be rich. That's their service. Right? And so we're failing as a society and a civilization, and we're going to continue failing in big and significant ways. Lucky Cop got a free ticket to Switzerland just to send an email. You can send an email from like a Switzerland account, dude. Like, that's not hard to do. Really. And like what? So, the cop said it came from Switzerland, so it definitely did. I went to support Clara at a candidate debate in 2019. This is very upsetting to me. Yeah, it is. It's upsetting to me too. Like this is a pretty brutal story. It's brutal. It's brutal just from the perspective of the police can just kick in your door for fucking nothing, right? What's up, buddy? Where's your toy, bud? Where's your toy? Don't whine. Don't whine. I'm doing a podcast. Yeah, we're doing a stream here, buddy. We're trying to revolutionize the world. Did you not know? Did you not know? Does Milo not understand that we're trying to revolutionize the world? No. All Milo understands is I have a toy, and you want me to throw it, don't you? Okay, buddy. Go get it. Go get it. Go get it. Where's your toy? Where's your toy? Go get it. There he goes. It's like living with a little cartoon character, I tell you what. The goof with the Punisher logo on his phone at Uvalde said it all. Yeah, dude. Absolutely. Just how ridiculous the statement makes me laugh for a couple of reasons. I knew a cop in a neighboring state that made $130,000 per year. Yeah. Defending the social order is somewhat lucrative. Yeah, exactly. Okay, buddy, it's yours. It's yours. Yeah. Also, Reddit agrees, it seems to you, John. People think nothing will come of it. Yeah. I knew that a Marxist analysis of Marvel DC would eventually ruin my enjoyment of the material. My childhood memories have taken on new patina. Sad. Yeah. Like, I won't get into the Marvel DC shit, dude. I could spend a lot of time talking about that. Speaking of things, here's an ad. Sorry. I don't like to do it. I just told you, John? What did I miss? What did I miss, Anemone? It's only terrorists when you're brown. Milo doesn't understand revolution because he's a dog. And dogs are class traitors. Oh my god. Oh my god, Anemone. You've convinced me. Right? They don't understand revolution because they're members of the proletariat. There's a way to overcome IDPOL wedge issues. It just requires the privilege to renounce the wedge issue in the name of those it was used against for thousands of years. All right. You guys are calling for numbers. Let's do it. Let's do it. There's 15 people in the chat right now, according to this. There's 15 of you. I expect to see 15 numbers. Good to see all of you, by the way. I'm in with a 7, man. Here we go for today's number. I got to do something about these sound issues, man. I really got to sit down and actually work it out. Maybe on a Saturday, I'll do a stream one day, and you guys can help me. Here we go. Swirl the numbers. Come on, 7. Big 7. Big 7. Here we go. It's a 7. I can feel it. The energy is here. Good to see you, Isaac. Yes! I knew it. I knew it. I knew today was the day. How did I know? Mocked was here. That's how I knew. Mocked came in. I said to myself, it's going to be a 7 today because Mocked is here. What am I going to do with all of my winnings? Kay, how you doing? Oh man, I haven't seen you in forever, man. How you doing? Oh my God. Hello. Hello. Hope you're doing well, Kay. I thought you were going to come to the protest, but I was worried about you when you weren't there. I hope you're doing well. Oh my God. Oh my God. So nice to see. Look at this. On the day that we hit the 7, Macht is here and Kay is here. What a beautiful day we're having. What a beautiful day we're having. That's the thing I gotta always remind myself, man, and the thing that I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that you guys are here. I'm so grateful that you guys are all here, man. Like, the building of this and the building of this community has been a real pleasure to me. And sometimes I get in my own head about this channel and I start to think, like, what is this about? Why am I doing this? Is there even a point to this? But the truth is that doing this is valuable. It's valuable for myself. It's valuable for you guys, I hope, because we're all coming together and we're acknowledging the realities of what it is to live in this absurdist society and to try to come together and find solidarity with one another. Meanwhile, Milo's just like, John, I'm starting to think you might be right, Anemone. And Milo's here being like, uh-oh, John's talking about communism again. I have to distract him. I have to distract him away from fomenting revolution. So I'm going to hang on to this article, bud, because this is a big, big story that's not going to get any press whatsoever. So moving on. Justin Trudeau's reality. Much of the country dislikes him. Yeah, no shit. Oh, you mean this goober who doesn't actually do anything? Who only says that he's going to do stuff? Right? Who pretends as though he's going to do stuff? People are starting to figure out that we don't actually like him? No fucking shit. I wonder what the... The Prime Minister has many things, but stupid he is not. I actually disagree with that. I think that Justin Trudeau is actually pretty stupid, right? Like, the number one thing I say about this guy, this fucking foofy-haired, well, now he looks like a Dumb and Dumber idiot, right? The number one thing that's going to happen to this guy in his old age is he's really going to start asking himself, why did I waste my prime ministership? Like, I literally did fuck all. Like all he's doing is protecting capital. He's not responding to the needs of the populace. He's not actually pushing forward anything meaningful, anything that like people are like, yeah, he's a fucking total lame duck, right? His legacy is nothing, right? Like even Stephen Harper has a legacy, right? Like what's this guy's legacy? Can anybody actually point to anything meaningful that he actually did, right? Especially when you compare him to his father. Like, his father was instrumental in pushing forward Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedoms, right? Like, Pierre Elliott Trudeau's the party was the party that put in the national healthcare system. What the fuck has this guy done? Like, what a waste of time this guy is, right? Like, just absolute... Yeah, I'm sure he'll enjoy his own capital later. Legacy doesn't mean what it used to. Yeah, now it merely means monetary inheritance. Exactly. And Methane, that's nailing something, right? Really crucial, which is that the idea of building a civilization does not exist in North America anymore. That we are not building a culture, we are not building a civilization, we are not building anything. Because the only thing that matters now is financial monetary inheritance. That's the only judge of character that exists in the society any longer. That if a person is trying to do good works or is working hard, contributes to their community, none of that matters. Oh, you have $1 million? You're a good person. That's the only thing that matters to this culture any longer. And if you don't have, and it doesn't matter what you do to make that money, right? But as long as you're making money, then you're a good person. Yeah. And waiting in the wings, of course, as much of the country dislikes Justin Trudeau, it's Poilievre's Conservative Party. That's bad news for Canada. The fact that this is coming out of the Washington Post, by the way, the fact that this is being written in the Washington Post actually makes me like this guy more, right? If Jeff Bezos and his cronies think that this is a bad move, or don't like, or think that this is bad news for Canada, oh, okay. I'd like to hear more, please. Anything that these like loser fascists and these total psychos are saying is bad for us, I'm immediately going to be like, oh, well, let's find out why they think this is bad. The Conservative Party of Canada's leadership race is on until September, but it's already over. For months, Pierre Poilievre has led the pack, a clear front-runner in a contest that will shape the future of the party. Right now, that future looks to be a toxic, right-wing, populist, libertarian turn. A nasty turn we've seen before around the world. Literally, Jeff Bezos funds these sorts of parties, so what the fuck we're talking about. Last week, fundraising numbers confirmed what anyone paying attention could have told you. Throughout April, May, and June, Poilievre raised more donor money than all his competitors combined. That's just over 4 million Canadian dollars. That's it. That's the ball game. Call it. In late July, former Conservative Prime Minister Stephen Harper endorsed Poilievre. The nod wasn't unexpected. It has long been assumed... Thanks, Dan Boxes. I appreciate it, bud. Thank you so much. It has long been assumed that Harper supported his former cabinet minister, just as it has long been known that Harper wasn't the biggest fan of Poilievre's principal rival, Jean Charest. The endorsement was a rubber stamp on top of a foregone conclusion. It made Poilievre the unity candidate, which is to say it called for the ideological diversity of the party to be subsumed under Poilievre's libertarian conservatism, served with a dollop of populist pastiche. It's Poilievre's party now. That's bad news for Conservatives and the country. Poilievre is a reckless politician. He supports the toxic convoy that occupied Ottawa in the winter. Like, I love it. I love it. When right-wingers make good political choices for themselves, it's recklessness. Like, dude, no, what's more reckless than using the Emergencies Act? Right? What's more reckless than using the Emergencies Act against people blocking a bridge? Right? Like, for fuck's sake. As we learned once more in June when he marched with James Topp. As Rachel Gilmore reported for the Times, at the time for Global News, Topp appeared on far-right figurehead Jeremy Mackenzie's podcast. Mackenzie, she noted, was also part of a controversial January YouTube broadcast, during which he claimed the so-called Freedom Convoy could bring down the government, as his co-hosts chimed that they think we need to assemble the gallows on effing Parliament. The frontrunner is also fond of torqued attacks against the Bank of Canada, journalists, the World Economic Forum, and anyone who might plausibly be defined as a gatekeeper. His anti-elite, anti-establishment bit belies the fact that he's a career politician and a former cabinet minister. He's establishment all the way down. He's a phony loudmouth who has been walking the halls of Parliament since 2004, since he was in his 20s. Yeah, all of that's true, right? I'm just loving the seething. I don't know why they're seething about it, right? Hey Dan, how you doing, bud? Wow, everybody's coming in today. Wow. All right, we got Kaya, we got Mox, we got Dan. I'm so glad to see you guys, man. What a blessed day this is. Just to think that this was a day where it started really badly for me. I was feeling quite sick today, but what a blessed day. So happy to see all of you. With all those years in Parliament, you'd think he'd know what he's talking about, but he doesn't. He has made the federal budget a crusade, shrinking the deficit and debt, railing against Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the Bank of Canada's money printing and inflation, and supporting a baddie policy to force his ministers to cut $1 of spending for each new dollar they wish to spend, as if government finance and personal finance are the same thing. It turns out, contrary to Poilievre's lazy, rehashed Thatcherite fever dream, that Canada is in healthy and sustainable fiscal health. Inflation is a problem, a serious one, but it's not caused by what Poilievre thinks it is, and it won't be solved by his unserious debate club ideas. Look, do these guys not understand that Poilievre is a politician? It doesn't matter what he thinks, right? Like, he's not saying these things because he believes them. He's saying them because his base believes them, right? He doesn't care he doesn't want to approach these people and say, well, actually, guys, this is actually what's going on. He doesn't want to try to convince these people. That's not how this works. That's not how Western politics works. You don't need things like the truth. You don't need evidence or facts. You just need these rubes to vote for you. That's all. And if these rubes are walking around saying, the WEF is the biggest threat to Canada's sovereignty, then if you're a wise politician, you go, yeah, I'm going to make sure that the WEF is fought against at every step. So that these rubes all go, yeah! That's all. That's it. Right? That's all he is. And any analysis of Poilievre beyond that, this idea that these guys are presenting him at like this paragraph makes sense, right? He's a phony loudmouth who's been walking the halls of Parliament since 2004. Correct. Like, that's the most correct thing. But, like, why would you pretend like he's serious about any of this? He doesn't care, right? When he gets into power, he's going to make decisions that benefit him. And any of this kind of shit is just ancillary. It's just ancillary nonsense. Poilievre will become the leader of the Conservative Party, bringing with him a populist conservative that ought to worry the country. It's possible that as leader, or God forbid, prime minister, he will be moderated by the pressures and checks of the party and the country. Running for something is cheap and easy compared with winning and keeping the thing, as the last two leaders of the Conservative Party learned quickly. Poilievre as leader will have to manage a caucus of members of parliament and senators. As prime minister, he would have to do the same, alongside a cabinet, departments, and relationships with premiers and foreign states, not to mention, naturally, the people who will expect him to deliver on promises of a better country, promises he simply lacks the capacity to keep. But we can't count on Poilievre being moderated by external forces. We must assume the worst. He keeps telling us who he is. We should believe him. While it's too late to prevent Poilievre's ascendancy to leader of the Conservative Party, it isn't too late to resist him becoming prime minister. Now this is the meat of it. The Liberals, New Democrats, and Greens ought to make it a priority to ensure he never forms a government. So should sensible Conservatives. Of course, the people of Canada must do the same. The problems Canada and the world face are far too great to leave to a right-wing, doctrinaire, stuffed shirt politician of such little distinction, capacity, or imagination. The truth is that Trudeau and Singh are in these people's pockets and are working for their benefit already. They don't want to have to swing a deal with a new player. That's the truth, right? That they're not interested in trying to negotiate a new deal with Poilievre, who's a new voice to them, somebody who they have to actually deal with, right? When they have a sweetheart deal with Trudeau. Like, Trudeau is completely willing to capitulate everything to these people. He's totally willing to sell out the country. He's completely willing to fabricate and lie. He's completely willing to buy pipelines, give huge bailouts to media conglomerates. He's completely willing to give huge bailouts to gigantic corporations, to allow the Rogers, Telus, Bell monopoly to continue unfettered. He's completely willing to allow BlackRock and 6th Street and Vanguard to come in and buy up the housing market. He's already on board, right? Like, Trudeau exists to capitulate to the wealthy. That's what he's already doing. And so the reason why the Washington Post is coming out so hard against Poilievre is because there's a chance that he won't act the same way. There's a chance that he might actually say, well, wait, isn't this a free market capitalist system? You guys are running out of money. That's your problem, right? There's a chance that he might actually do that. Because Harper did that, right? Harper, when the fossil fuel industry was getting into trouble, Harper literally said to them, look, this is a free market system. Like under Mulrooney and all this, we privatized all of this because you guys said you could run it better. Well, run it better. And if you can't, too bad. Well, they didn't care for that very much, right? So they jumped ship, and who do they support now? Trudeau, who does stuff like buy pipelines and gives them all the subsidies they want, right? So there's a reason why they're coming out so hard against Poilievre, and it's because Poilievre might, maybe, possibly, actually say, wait, isn't this a free market economy? Like, aren't you supposed to try to make it work? Well, make it work, right? They don't care for that. And I'm not saying I support Poilievre, by the way, right? I think he's essentially a dipshit, right? Like, he's in it for his own personal glory and power, exclusively. He doesn't care about the future of Canada or the legacy or any of that. Like, he's not interested in any of that. He essentially wants to get in so that he can ensure that his landlord properties will make as much money as they possibly can. That's basically what Poilievre wants, right? He's not interested in helping the poor or the needy or any of that shit. Like, that's not going to happen. The media is just so evolved now. The game's changed, not so straightforward. They got to make him seem bad now for a reversal later. Maybe to get him more in line with what Bezos wants. Who knows? No, I just think it's straight up like they're going to do everything they can to ensure that the pawn they have in the position they have him, which is Trudeau and Singh, stays there. That's it. That's what they're doing here. They've got a piece that they know is working for them. That if they go to and say, hey, Trudeau, we need a $10 billion bailout, he'll go, okay, there you go. Because that's what he does. Right? That's what he's always done. He's done it every single time. Trudeau doesn't know how to say no. Right? He doesn't know how to say no. That anytime he does anything that has the appearance of actually pushing back against his owners, right? It's 100% him going to the ownership class and saying, okay, guys, I was elected on the platform of raising taxes on the wealthy, so I've got to raise taxes on you 1.2%. And then the corporation goes, okay, we understand your position. You have to actually fool these morons into believing that you're actually interested in governing. But you're going to give us, like, that money you tax away back to us in terms of in bailouts or straight up just buying us stuff, right? And Trudeau goes, oh, yes, of course. And that's it. That's their relationship. Right? Their relationship is completely one of ownership and capitulation. And they don't want that to be upset. And they look at Poilievre and they think, oh, this might be a guy who actually understands what power is. Right? Like, Trudeau has no comprehension of power. Right? He doesn't understand the position he's in. He doesn't understand the power that he wields. He doesn't wield the power that he has. And anytime he does, he immediately backs off of it, right? He immediately backs off of it. Whereas someone like Poilievre, like, Harper understood power. Harper understood how to wield power. Harper did wield power, right? And the very last thing that someone like Bezos or any of these guys want is a prime minister who understands how to wield power, right? You take a look at Pierre Elliott Trudeau. Pierre Elliott Trudeau knew how to wield power, and he did, effectively, right? Well, they don't want that. They don't want people in positions of power who understand the power that they have, right? Like, the Prime Minister's office can fundamentally reshape Canada. Fundamentally reshape Canada, right? The Prime Minister's office can call reforms to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. You could literally find yourself suddenly in a position where the Prime Minister of Canada is bringing together the premiers of the province in order to amend the Constitution of Canada and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. They fucking don't want that. They're completely disinterested in that. Trudeau's not going to do that. Poilievre could. So Poilievre's the greatest danger Canada's ever seen. We got to fight against him because when we ask him for a bailout, he might say no. I think socialism for the rich is just another attempt to distract from the reality that capitalism has always used the state to rig the market. Yeah, crony capitalism's always what it's been. Yeah, crony capitalism. Yeah, I love that. I love that there was that anybody anywhere goes, I'm a fan of capitalism, not this crony capitalism. And it's just like, bro, like this is capitalism. Like this is how capitalism operates. That even if you create an environment somehow magically, mystically, where capitalists are doing capitalism in a capitalist, and everything's normal capitalism and there's no cronyism and all this kind of stuff, well, eventually big fish eat the little fish until they get big enough, and what do? They buy the system of power, right? That's called capitalism. There's no such thing as crony capitalism. This idea of crony capitalism just shows you how utopian these people are. That they view the system, that they view the idea of capitalism with a completely utopian lens. And then they turn around and say of communism, well, that's utopian. The proper way of doing things is to have capitalism magically do a thing that it's never done in the history of its existence, right? Like, literally what we're looking at is a culture that is the beneficiary of overt slavery and theft, saying that this is the greatest system ever. It's like a train robber telling you that after he robbed the train, that train robbery is the best way to organize a civilization and a society. Ugh. Every time that somebody tells me that crony capitalism isn't true capitalism, I just simply reply back to them, this is a no true Scotsman argument. Yeah, they don't care about that, dude. They don't care. Like we're not in a period of time where people are like, nobody cares about logical fallacies or any of this kind of shit. Like, nobody cares about any of that whatsoever. It's you're right. Like, don't get me wrong, you're correct. It's just like people are not. They don't care about facts or evidence. Like nobody cares about that, right? Everybody is just thinking, oh, I'm in the in group, and the in group says capitalism is good and communism is bad, and so therefore capitalism is good and communism is bad. I don't care about the evidence, the facts. I don't care about history, like the material reality. I don't care about any of that. I care about what the in group says. Like that's it. And eventually reality will assert itself. You know much about the Magna Carta? I heard some Brit talking about it lately, seemed interesting. The Magna Carta was essentially it's like pop quiz time. I do know stuff about the Magna Carta, but it's been a long time since I brought it up. So, like, the Magna Carta was a civil rights document that was made in, like, the 14th century or something like this. I forget what, I think it was Britain. And it basically is initially, Magna Carta. Let's just go all the way. Yeah. Is a royal charter of rights agreed to by King John of England at Runnymede near Windsor on 15th of June, 1215. First drafted by the Archbishop of Canterbury, Cardinal Stephen Langton, to make peace between the unpopular king and a group of rebel barons. It promised the protection of church rights, protection for the barons from illegal imprisonment, access to swift justice, and limitations on feudal payments to the crown. Yeah, like the Magna Carta is often pointed at as as an extension of rights into the populace, but I mean, in this just cursory thing, right? Like it is like you had a royal conflict between barons, landowners, landlords, right, and the king. And so the crown, the church, negotiated a settlement between the two of them that extended rights to the barons that previously had not existed. And, like, it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but, like, it is just like a royal document that it's all very internal, put it that way. Like it's and then of course, as you can see, it is like the Magna Carta is like this kickoff of the idea that the monarchy and the monarchs, the kings, are not gods, right? Like that I think is like the true essence. Yeah, I think this is right, Eric. Like, you could argue the Magna Carta is the first step towards capitalism, but it's the first true step away, something that we can really point to it's the first true step away from the divine right of kings. I think that's the big thing. Yep, I think this is right, Methane. The way it was discussed, it seemed like it was still valid protection for people in reference to law, that the rulers were still trying to strike it down or change it. Yep. It's fundamentally a challenge against the primacy of the crown. That's what it is, right? It's that up until the Magna Carta, it's the divine right of kings. The king's word is law. The king is a vassal of God's will. That if the king says every third girl born of a Scot will be sacrificed to the crown or whatever, like anything, pick a thing, right? That's just the law. That's just how it is, right? And the only politics that really exists before the Magna Carta is whether or not the peasants are going to fucking revolt over it, right? So it's all just might makes right, power for power's sake. If you have like a crazy king who is insane, then you're going to have a crazy time, and the peasants are going to have to be like fighting back in serious ways. If you have a docile king, right, then you have a peaceful time, right? Probably a piece of general prosperity. And so it's all very haphazard, right? Like it is literally the whims of this guy who got born with a crown on his head. That's straight up. That's how it is. And so the Magna Carta is finally the moment when Western European people said, maybe that's a dumb thing. Maybe that's dumb. Maybe the idea that a guy born with a crown on his head actually knows how to govern appropriately is a really fucking stupid way to run a society. And so they started to implement common law, like laws that were understood to supersede the whims of the king, and that the king couldn't just demand things and expect to have them done if they countervailed the agreed upon laws and mandates set upon in the Magna Carta. And so from there it has evolved over time to and I think Eric is correct that it is the first step towards capitalism. It's truly the first step of the diminishment of the power of the crown, and inevitably and eventually the rise of the merchant and manufacturing class. That as the power of the crown diminishes, the wealthy landowners in the society begin to assert their dominance and control. And that becomes especially true as we move into the Industrial Revolution, that more and more and more the crown becomes a figurehead more than anything. That you can still, like, one of the facts I like to point out, like, the monarchy still has a certain degree of power, but the power isn't through demanding changes to law. The power comes in demanding explanations for things. Like, when the 2008 financial collapse happened, a big reason why the populace can understand what happened in 2008, the financial collapse of 2008, was because the Queen of England asked the people around her to explain it to her with a one-page document that she could understand. That's what she said to them. And they came back with a one-page document that she could understand. And it basically said, the Americans essentially allowed anybody to borrow as much money as they wanted, with loans that they could never, ever, ever pay back, because there was a system in place that enriched the middlemen who didn't care if it collapsed the economy. And that's basically what happened. Yeah, they held one person to account for it all. Yeah, well, and that person, it wasn't even for an account for it all. It was just like one case of fraud. The guy did like 3 or 4 years or something like this. But what was it, Lehman? I think Lehman went under. Is that right? Yeah. Like, meanwhile, in China had a similar thing happen. Right? A similar thing occurred because what happens is frauds and liars find ways to maximize profits for themselves at the expense of the populace, right? And I think eight billionaires were executed in China over it. Like, China executed people for it. We did fuck all. So we essentially told the populace, do this. Do this as often as you possibly can. If you can find ways to do this, do this. Right? And that kind of mindset is completely manifesting itself. Like in China, they banned Bitcoin, they banned cryptocurrencies in China. Why? Because they're worthless, right? Actually, they're worse than worthless, right? Cryptocurrencies are devastating. They create pollution, they use energy while producing nothing of value whatsoever, right? While producing nothing of value whatsoever, right? Yeah, I mean, you can hate the death penalty. I understand that. We can have that conversation for sure. Like, I don't judge people one way or the other. But the truth is that the death penalty is a larger penalty than nothing. Right? Like, it's a bigger penalty than nothing. And so China is banning cryptocurrencies, has banned cryptocurrencies. What's America doing? Right? They're doubling down on it. Bitcoin miner riot earned $9.5 million for shutting down during Texas heat wave. So during the Texas heat wave, they had to shut Bitcoin down because it's meaningless. It doesn't do anything, and they had to pay them to do it. Yeah, we had to pay them to fucking do it. Like this absolutely meaningless, pointless faff of a pyramid scheme, and we're literally paying people to stop doing it instead of just saying, "Get the fuck out of here!" Like get the fuck out of here. Like it's so fucking worthless. China's got their digital yuan though. Not sure if it's actually used yet. I'm not convinced. Well, they've banned non-state-run crypto, right? Like there is a difference between like a digital currency of the state and and just like a decentralized currency like crypto. They are different, and I'm personally against digital currency on a very practical basis. It doesn't do anything new. It doesn't let you do anything new, right? And all it does is pollute. That's all it does. It doesn't actually produce anything of value, right? It's a toy. That's all it is. It's a toy, and it shouldn't be used. It shouldn't be done. The idea was always a harebrained scheme of like internet, of people who are just terminally online all the time, right? Who wanted to extend the internet into monetary policy and monetary spaces without actually considering how fucking pointless it is. Like, who gives a shit? It's like how for a period of time Meta was such a big fucking deal, right? Everybody was like, "Oh, Meta, what a cool idea! You could go online." And then literally one guy stood up and said, "This is a gaming lobby. Like, literally, this is a thing that people have been doing for fucking decades already, repackaged and sold to people who are too stupid to understand that it's just a gaming lobby, right? You just go stand around in an online space. What, you mean like fucking literally every first-person shooter I've ever played in my life? Literally go back to like online games of Doom, and it's exactly that. It's just being packaged to boomers who are too stupid to understand that that's what's happening. Like, and the whole thing fell apart. Like, once everybody realized, oh, this is essentially like Battlefield Online. Just like, that's it. Now, what are we going to do with these useless landlords? I'm not saying that the action to punish the billionaire was wrong. What I'm saying is that the punishment that they received that I disagree with. Yeah, I mean, I disagree with the death penalty for civilians generally. That, like, crimes of passion, theft, like most crimes, I find myself agreeing with you, Eric. It's when we get into things like treason, things like like once you're talking about the industrial crimes, like the like if somebody poisons a lake, I think they should die. Like I'm straight up. Like if somebody poisons somebody's water supply and just like wrecks it forever, yeah, they should go. Like I don't actually have a problem with that. Like when the Italians executed Mussolini, I was like, great. Like perfect. Like I'm completely fine with this. The idea that someone like Hitler would just be captured and imprisoned, no, absolutely not. Like abso-fucking-lutely not. Talking about poisoning a lake, are you going to read the article about DuPont? Dude, that article is huge. This article is massive, bud. Like, I've got it right here. Look how big this article is, man. Look how big this article is, man. I'd be reading this article for like 3 days. Look at it. Look at it. I will break it down. It is essentially that DuPont has been poisoning water. In total, 70,000 people were drinking poisoned water. Some had been doing so for decades. And this lawyer, the lawyer Rob Billet, has been fighting them the whole time. So there are people who are trying to fight the good fight, but the system is geared to allow people to, like, the free market will decide to poison the lake, and so the free market's always right. That's 100% what it is. Death penalty is based in accordance to putting billionaires and millionaires to the choppy. Yeah, I mean, like, at this stage in the game, I would simply be satisfied if we arrested them and incarcerated them. Like, right now, the only punishment that can be faced to these guys is a fine. And so what they do is they put that fine into their calculations and just say, like, well, poisoning the lake is fine because it's cheaper for us to do, right? And even if they fine us, it's still cheaper, so we'll do it, right? And so the idea that we're not, like, explicitly saying to these people, if you do this stuff, we will arrest you and incarcerate you, right? Like, at the very least. My feeling is jail or justice didn't happen, right? Like, if you're not actually going to arrest these people and if you're not actually going to incarcerate them, then it doesn't matter, right? They don't care. Like, they don't care at all. Like, they'll happily poison your shit. And you'll be like, that'll be a $10 million fine. And they'll be like, oh, that's okay. I still made money off of it. Right? They've just built it into their equations. Yep, I think you're right here, Eric. This guy is fighting the good fight. And he's doing the right thing. Right? That a major corporation, DuPont, has been poisoning water supplies for 20 years now. And this guy's actually fighting back. Right? And he's actually, like, taking them to court, and he's actually taking them to task, right? And pushing on them. But of course, like, they're powerful, right? So they can just bribe judges, which is easy to do in America. They're called campaign contributions, right? Because judges in America are elected. And this is what I love about America, man. Like, they've literally built corruption into the system. That the systemic corruption that exists in America is as far as the Americans are concerned, a feature, not a bug. That if you give campaign contributions to someone, it's not corruption. If you lobby someone, it's not corruption, right? Like, it's so obviously and overtly corruption. It's happening directly in front of your face. But we're all supposed to just be like, yeah, that's normal. What a normal society we have. We're the greatest country in the world. The way we get things done is by somebody giving us money. And that's normal. Yeah. Fines for crimes are obviously just a cost of doing business for corporations, and life ending for individuals. Yeah, win-win-win, exactly. You also need DP to put the terror into the hearts of the bourgeoisie wannabes. Yeah. Like, PSMLS class on North Korea in 10 minutes. Barnabas promoting his YouTube channel, as always, which is good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, the death penalty, like, I guess this is the way to say it. Like, I'm against the death penalty for the proletariat, but I'm for the death penalty for the bourgeoisie. That's the way to say it. That I'm against the death penalty for the powerless, and for the death penalty for the powerful. And, like, I think that there is such a thing as a crime so heinous that it is our duty as a civilization to expressly say to our own civilization and to the rest of the world, this is unacceptable. And the only way to say that to any level of merit is through the death penalty. I just straight up don't see... like, I understand the objections. Like, I get it. Like, I'm not naive in this regard. I accept your points. I hear them. And I still think that this is correct. Like, I still think that it is better for us to say to people who seek power in the society that there are hard lines. That if you cross, you will be punished in big and significant ways. And we don't do that in our country. There are no punishments for the poor, for the rich rather, right? There are no punishments for the rich. There is no such thing as the rich facing consequences, right? The consequences that they face is just like a fine, which, as Methane points out, right? Fines for crimes are obviously just a cost of doing business. Like, it's no punishment at all. So when you have a society where there is no such thing as consequences, you can just do what you like. No hard lines whatsoever. This is what you get. This is what you get. Like, I take a look at these people, the DuPont, right? And like, or like these people, right? The climate change liars, right? Like the people who are actually funding climate change deception. Like, if our industries, if the fossil fuel industry have seen, oh shit, we're actually polluting to a level that's actually going to cause us a lot of problems, we should move away from that, right? And even if they had done nothing, right? Even if they had been like, oh shit, well, what are you going to do? And just continued on and done nothing, then we could be like, okay guys, like we gotta, like when the political system started to push against it and started to move and mobilize, right? Then you could say of these people, look, we just have to move away from it. Like, sure, maybe there's like a fine or something, all that kind of stuff. But the truth is that these guys saw it, knew what it was going to do, and lied about it. These people should be hung. They should be. Like, they should be tried. We should put them on trial. We should expose their crimes, and we should commit to the death penalty. Like, what they have done is fomented an apocalypse and lied to us about it. Like, I don't think that we should forgive them. I straight up. And I think that we should make an example of these people. In major ways. Like, in major ways. And again, I respect why someone would stand up and say, I disagree, I think that there is a moral argument and all of this, and I accept that. I still think we should do it. Yeah, I think the death penalty should be used. Our executioners should be those among us who are fans of capitalists and landlords. The capital simps must be made to take out Musk. I am anti-death penalty. I prefer gulag. Yeah, like, should they just go to prison? Right? Is prison enough? Right? I was always undecided, flexible for my views on the death penalty, so I'm not difficult to convince for this particular class of crimes. Yeah. Like, like, we're not talking about, like, even a murder. Like, we're not even talking about, like, a serial killer here. We're talking about people who are attempting to wipe out species. We're talking about people who are attempting to wipe out civilizations. Right? Like, I don't know. How else are you supposed to respond? Like, what else are you supposed to do? Oh, this is a good one. When your entire store walks out after management unjustly fires your coworker for being a union leader. So the anti-unionism that is happening throughout the United States, they're literally just like firing people, shutting down stores, doing all that kind of stuff, and the workers aren't tolerating it, which is correct, which is the right thing to do, right? So, in response, Jagmeet Singh warns Justin Trudeau their deal is dead if no dental plan by year's end, which he's essentially forced to do, right? Like, Jagmeet Singh has no credibility anymore as a political leader. This is his only. He has to do this, right? He can't just faff about and be like and give the Liberals a full term while they do nothing, right? So this is where the NDP have planted their flag, right? This is what the NDP are pointing at and saying, this is what we're going to do. Well, and the Liberals were ready for it, right? We're planning a temporary solution. Yeah, nice temporary solution, right? Like, what a faff this all is. The Liberals promised the NDP a new dental care program for low and middle income families in March as part of a supply and confidence agreement to prevent elections before 2025. The government has until the end of year to provide some kind of coverage for children under the age of 12. The NDP have vowed to walk away from the deal if the deadline isn't met. So, like, we're literally talking about the extreme bare minimum here, right? Like, and the NDP are doing a great job of delaying. That's what their role in this is, by the way. That it is to, like, just delay and delay, to keep suckering the populace into being like, okay, we'll get something, we'll get anything, we'll get an improvement in any way, on any position, in any regard, right? And so the Liberals are getting ready to, we'll do coverage under the age of 12, right? Which is, like, pretty much in line with what the Conservatives did passing the child care benefit, right? And they'll just lengthen and lengthen and lengthen. Though details are scarce, i.e. non-existent. And it's just a total fucking faff. I've never actually seen anything with Snowpiercer. I understand that it's like a commentary, a critique of society with the use of this train, right? That the train itself is capitalism. I've just never taken the time. Its series even has Trevor from GTA 5. Wow. Get hype. I can't play Grand Theft Auto 5, man. I have it. I've played a bit of it. I just can't do it. It's just not... I feel like I'm over... Like, when I was younger, I played a lot of, like, Duke Nukem and Doom and those sorts of games, right? Mortal Kombat. I played a lot of Mortal Kombat. I just can't do it anymore. You know? I just can't do it anymore. I'm just not... interested in this hyper violence any longer. Which isn't to say I don't play games that like have a degree of conflict or fighting in it, but like, John, let's talk capitalist simulator. I want credit, you take income. I would love to be able to develop a game, honestly. I just don't have the technical skills to be able to do it. Elden Ring is not a peaceful game. I've finished Elden Ring now. I'm on my third playthrough of Elden Ring. I'm starting to gravitate away from Elden Ring, but like the combat and the fighting that exists in Elden Ring it's not hyper violent, you know? It's not like extravagant violence. That the combat that exists in Elden Ring is like Legend of Zelda style combat, where like, yes, you've got a sword and you've got spells, and yes, you kill this like undead critter or whatever, but there's not like a hyper glorification of it like what's happened in Doom and Mortal Kombat, where like literally in Mortal Kombat there are moves that like zoom in the camera on someone so you can watch bones break in X-ray style. There's like a hyper glorification of it. There's a hyper overt, like the violence is the point. That it's not even about the fighting. It's not even about the killing. It's about the maiming and the torture and the delving into the, it's like slowly watching some kind of grotesque freak show occur in front of you. And Doom has these like glory kills where you get extra health and ammo if you do them, and they're just like a grotesque like art piece of disgust, right? And I just found myself like, and it's such a shame because when I was playing Mortal Kombat, I was like enjoying the game, right, for what it is. It's a fighting game. But just these moments of like, okay, I gotta watch this again. I gotta watch this again, right? Like you gotta constantly put yourself in a position where you're experiencing this like overwhelming violence, right? Like the original Doom, like, yeah, you got a gun and you kill this thing and he goes, oh, and he falls over, right? Well, in the new Doom, you shoot the guy, he glows, and so you grab him and like slowly twist his head off, like reach into his mouth and like snap his jaw off, and then take his jaw and ram it into his eye. I'm like, bro, like I don't need it. I don't need it. It's too much. It's too much, right? It's one thing to have a game that has violence, and I would describe Elden Ring in this way, right? Yes, it's a game where you have swords and you have magic and you do violence. Clearly, that's what you're doing. And there's a difference between that and this overt glorification of it, where you're supposed to like revel in the bloodlust and like basically like take enemies and like spray yourself with their blood. I just can't do it anymore, man. I can't do it anymore. I want to study game design, which is why I draw perspective pieces now. Very nice. You know what, Anemone? One of the things that I think about all the time, Unreal Engine 5 got released, and what Unreal Engine has done, what the company has done, is they've said, here's this game design tool. We've released a series of videos to teach you how to use this game design tool. It's all free. We've given it to you, and the only time we'll take any amount of money from you is if you sell 1 million copies. So they've essentially said to the world, here's this free resource full of any kind of resource you need. So like chairs, any furniture, landscapes, any kind of thing you need, people, any of this to fill and populate your universe with. We'll teach you how to use it. We'll show you how to create it. and then we'll let you have the tool, and we won't charge you a thing unless you sell 1 million copies with our thing, and then we'll take 1%. To me, that's the future of it all. That now there really isn't an excuse. The only excuse that exists is time, right? Like someone like me, like I've downloaded this, I've opened it, I've taken a look at the videos, I've started to tool around, but it's about time. It's about sitting down and actually taking the time to actually learn it and actually do it and actually put it forward and actually let your idea come to life. But I would highly recommend to anyone who is interested at all in pursuing any kind of game design or anything to download Unreal Engine 5 and learn how to use that. That's the future of it all, right? That literally there is a game design. I think it is only PC. I think, but you could look into that. Like, when I heard about it, I was like, oh man, what a great business model. Like, these guys literally are just like, yeah, we made this thing. You can make any game you like out of it, right? Here's how you use it. Here's the tools. Here's the process. Go nuts. Be creative. Create a world. Here, we'll show you how to do it. All of that kind of stuff. We're not going to charge you anything unless it's successful, and then we'll charge you a very reasonable fee. It's like, what a rational, reasonable, sane business model of just like, yeah. And I feel like the tools are all out there. It's just, do you have the time? Do you have the time? Right? Yet another reason why this system of capital is a waste of everybody's time. Right? Like, instead of freeing people from this absurdist system of capital and saying, hey, like, why don't you spend your time designing and creating artistic pursuits with these tools that we've created and all this kind of stuff? Instead of that, we're like, yeah, you got to sell lattes. Like, it's childish what we're doing, right? We literally could be living in a society that is explicitly about creating and sharing art. Like, that's literally what we could do. It would actually be very easy for us to do. And like, any labor that needs to happen could be shared throughout the populace. Right, meaningful labor, actual labor, not this garbage capitalist bullshit, but instead like building a real system and a real society. Like, this place could be so much cooler. We could have such a cooler society, right? We just choose not to. Speaking of not having a cool society, that's the last one. I promise. I promise. So, Rayner's newsletter. Imperialism's survival strategies. Turn Eastern Europe into a neo-colony. Build up towards World War III. U.S. imperialism is taking advantage of the conflict it's created in Ukraine by imposing neoliberal shock policies onto the country, even after the substantial amount of such policies that have already been implemented there. With the 2014 Euromaidan coup, Washington got an opportunity to complete the project it began after the fall of the Soviet Union, which was to turn Ukraine into a neo-colony. The corruption that had been ravaging the country for decades became greatly intensified, and Ukraine's working class was forced into an even more exploited state. Ukraine has been hit especially hard by the destruction of socialism, coming to be even poorer than Russia became after the catastrophe, which was the 1990s capitalist and imperialist looting wave. Now that the imperialists are taking their war against Ukraine's proletariat up by an additional caliber, and now that Washington's proxy war has almost cut Ukraine's economy in half, it can be argued that Ukraine is, or soon will, be a fully qualified neo-colony. The campaign by the right-wing imperialist think tanks that have facilitated this latest wave of privatization, austerity measures, workers' rights erosions, and oligarch tax cuts has been about more than wanting to expand capital's power. It is a reactive maneuver. Aside from the case of the 2014 Euromaidan coup, The US empire has been unable to carry out its regime change operations throughout the last decade. Its coup attempts have failed in Venezuela, Bolivia, Cuba, Nicaragua, Belarus, Kazakhstan, and so many other places which Washington desperately seeks to bring back under its control. China continues to win over the exploited world towards the Belt and Road Initiative, which offers the remaining US neocolonies a path out of the neocolonialism by letting them build up their own economies. If the empire is going to keep losing its access to these markets, as it most certainly will, then it will try to compensate by turning other countries into neocolonies. This is a process that entails the cannibalization of the imperialist sphere. The core imperialist powers will have to gobble up the countries which aren't currently neocolonies, but are lower than them in the global hierarchy imperialism has created. In other words, the ones that can be considered semi-peripheral, or at least increasingly close to becoming semi-peripheral as capital's crisis forces all bourgeoisie economies into contraction. The countries that most appropriately fit this category, and which are some of the only ones that imperialists can feasibly do this to, are the ones in Eastern Europe. They're the places, ripped away from the protection of the Soviet bloc, that have already been especially battered by neoliberalism compared to the imperialist countries to their immediate west, and especially compared to the still largely intact Scandinavian welfare states to their north. In the neoliberal era, every capitalist country, including anti-imperialist ones like Russia, gets subjugated to an upward wealth transfer, because this stage of capitalism's collapse requires intensified exploitation to keep profits up. But neoliberalism's impacts have not been distributed equally, with the formerly colonized countries being hit the worst, the Nordic states being hit the mildest, the imperial center in the United States being ironically hit the hardest compared to the other imperialist countries, and places like Ukraine being hit only marginally less than the neo-colonies. As capital keeps contracting and the empire continues to lose its power, all of these places are going to get neoliberalized more severely than thus far, and Eastern Europe will be transformed into a neo-colonial region. A big part of this next stage in the process of capitalism's self-consumption, where the bourgeoisie reduce more and more of the formerly favored populations to the status of the hyper-exploited, is facilitated by the economic blowback from Washington's hybrid war on Russia. Washington has decided to sacrifice not just the post-Soviet countries, but Europe as a whole, for the sake of making its sanctions maximally effective. The countries in the global south have rejected Washington's calls to boycott Russia, so Washington's only choice is to make its immediate subordinates do the bulk of the work. The poorest countries are, of course, the most vulnerable to the global supply crisis chain this war has caused. But that the core imperialist powers are themselves experiencing steep costs, too, is significant. Germany has plunged into recession, as has the United States, despite the Biden administration's pathetic attempts to create a happier narrative. Europe could soon enter into a debt crisis that creates new divisions within it, undoing the unification that the Ukraine conflict has brought to the NATO powers. The recent trend towards inter-imperialist rivalries could be reignited, further weakening imperialism in general. Faced with all of these unraveling threads in the imperialist structure, Washington's reaction is to exact ever more destruction and chaos in the hopes that this will bring things back under its control. But like with all falling empires, its attempts to regain dominance are flailing ones, lacking in rational calculation. It's probable that at some point imperialism's calculus on the cost and benefits of a third world will change, and it will carry out a false flag to spark war with China. Washington's recent pivot to Taiwan, in which Pelosi's brazen provocation towards China has received approval from the White House, shows how much risk the imperialists are willing to bring at this point. Now that the Ukraine proxy war has failed to fulfill its intended purpose of weakening Russia so that the Russian Federation can be balkanized and China can be made vulnerable, The imperialists are trying to salvage what they've lost from this failed geopolitical chess maneuver. They're turning Ukraine into a full-on, hyper-exploited country before expanding this process to the rest of Eastern Europe, while heavily investing their resources into the military buildup against China. Should World War III start, they'll have a source of neocolonial extraction within the post-Soviet states to prop up their military machine, as well as to keep the capital within the core strong enough for staving off revolution. These maneuvers will only delay the empire's final collapse, and consequently make it even more severe. Washington may for now be successful at repressing the communist movement in Ukraine, having its Kiev puppet regime ban the country's Communist Party, while backing fascist militias that terrorize communists. And no doubt, the imperialists will carry out the same terror operations in the other Eastern European countries, as well as in the core imperialist countries themselves. But no matter how well the bourgeoisie crush their opposition, their socio-economic system is fundamentally unstable and is accelerating in its unraveling as capital's market access shrinks. The breaking of the remaining global South neocolonies from imperial control, the further expansion of inequality across the capitalist world, the accelerating fall of the profit rate, and the completion of the transition into multipolarity will all make imperialism's implosion inevitable. The imperialists hope to reverse this with a Hitlerian military campaign for renewed global conquest. But this will end the same way Hitler's Reich did, with the aggressor making far too many enemies for itself far too rapidly, and falling due to its own hubris. You don't have a working computer. Isn't that life? Yeah, in that life. It's always good to read this kind of thing, man. To have it like laid out like this, you know? Like, I try to put pieces together. I try to like create a narrative that is a meta thing. And it's good to see that there are other people out there who are doing the same thing and creating a larger meta narrative for us to look at and analyze. And I think that this is basically spot on, right? America is creating too many enemies for itself. It has created too many enemies for itself, right? That post World War II, it could have very easily come into the world and been a strong, resilient ally, right? Focused on trade, focused on peace building, right? Focused on creating trade negotiations and infrastructure, right? It could have done all of that. Not interested, though. The United States communicates through violence and domination exclusively. And it's created, like, the world is against the United States. Who are the allies of the United States, right? The European nations, Australia, Canada. That's it, right? It's this backward strategy that's blown up in their faces and is going to continue blowing up in their faces. And this is the first author I've seen who is willing to state it for how it is, right? That the Americans are acting as the Nazis on the world stage. They're just going around blowing everything up because it's the only thing they've got left. I can build a PC from spare wires and duct tape. Not having a working computer is an incredibly threatening thought for me. It's like 95% of my life. Yeah. Computers, man. They've changed everything for everyone. What else we got? What else is going on? Oh, yeah. This is an older article, but something I felt was worth bringing back around. Billionaire bunker owners are preparing for the ultimate underground escape. Like, how do we know that these people are total psychos? Like, you're looking at it. You're looking at it. Like, they literally want, they have, not want, they have built underground bunker complexes that can run off grid and have separated themselves. Like look, here's the layout for one of them. Right? It's like an underground mansion that they've built for themselves, so that they can escape the ravages that they themselves are responsible for. Like this is what they're planning. This is what they're doing. Like, instead of actually taking the money it would cost to confront the society, yeah, cars in an underground bunker, yeah. Look, we're not dealing with rational people here, dude. Like, we're not dealing with people who are thinking with their brains, or their emotions, or their hearts, or empathy or compassion. We're dealing with psychos, right? We're dealing with people who, like, look at, like, a fancy car and go, oh, like, that's it. That's where we're at, right? Yeah, of course they want a place to park their fancy cars. Their cars are they're symbols of power and status, right? And, like, they'll put, like, UV radiation protectors and go joyriding around the desolate apocalypse they've created. Like, this is what they want. This is what they're doing. This is who they are. And you can tell that they haven't thought this through at all, right? I outright say that I can't think of a better punishment for these people, right? I can't think of a better punishment for these people. Like, you personally are responsible for creating a hellscape apocalypse that you could have very easily confronted, and with your wealth and power, you could have done something about, right? But instead, you've decided to escape to this underground bunker. Well, what do you think's going to happen here? How do you think this is going to go, right? So if you end up to escape in here and you're by yourself, you'll go mad, right? Like, these people don't have the intellectual, emotional, or spiritual capability to withstand solitary confinement like this. They'll go mad, right? And if they go in there with people, right? If there's people living here, they'll murder each other, right? And then go mad. Like, these aren't good people. These aren't, like, people who care or have, like, these people are fucking psychotic. They're gonna go into this bunker. They're gonna have, like, it's gonna be like a Stephen King novel, right? It's gonna be like a Stephen King novel for these people. They're gonna go in there, and they're gonna realize very quickly, they're going to realize that they can't escape, right? That what they have created for themselves is a perfect prison that they can't escape in. And the people that they're with, they can't exploit or dominate, because the people that they're with can kill them, and will. Like, it's going to get, like, immediately it's going to get, like, immediately Game of Thronesy in there, dude. Like, I can't think of a better punishment for these people. John Bojack did an episode of this when Mr. Peanut Butter's house collapses into the ground because of fracking when he's having a party. Are you talking about BoJack Horseman? Is that what this is? A bunch of rich people trapped in a space together, or even alone, is going to be a bad time? Yeah. Like, these people are used to be able, like, think about the only reason why people serve these people is because of, like, the social contract and the social situation. All of that is dead. And how long do you think it's going to take their servants to realize, well, oh, we could just murder these people? Like, how long do you think it's going to take? Like, for people who are being treated as objects to just fucking kill these people. It's not going to take any time at all. It's not going to take any time at all. Yeah, exactly. Vault 129, one rich old white dude and 99 attractive little girls. Yeah. No, man, expect that shit. Like, that's going to just be normal shit. Like, that's how, like, why else would they think this way? Right? How long do you think it's going to take those little girls to figure out, oh, we could just kill this guy? Oh yeah, some Craster from Game of Thrones shit happening for sure, dude. Like, and like really think about how much effort and money went in to building this. Like really think about how much time and effort was put into this, and recognize that like, oh, this is what they're doing instead of confronting climate. And instead of confronting climate change, this is what they're doing. Like, these people are psychopaths. I don't know what we need anymore. Like, I don't know what we need anymore. And I don't know what it's going to take for the populace to finally just be like, nah. Like, nah, not any of this. Like, not at any of this. Like, what a fucking joke. Like, what a fucking joke. Ugh. I say we go get those billionaires, and we put them in these bunkers, and we lock the door behind them so they can't get out. That's what I said. That's what I think we should do. We should grab Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, right? We should grab Donald Trump, the Clintons, right? And we should just lock them in these bunkers. Here they are. And just be like, there you go. This is what you wanted, isn't it? Off you go. Just lock the door and throw away the key. Forget about it. Like, that's where I'm at with these guys. Like, what is this if not a full acknowledgement that climate change is real, it's coming, and instead of going, oh, we should do something about it, they're just preparing for it. Like, get the fuck right out of here. Speaking of, crop yields will suffer. Fertilizer reduction targets pitting farmers against federal government. A federal government plan to mandate that Canadian agribusiness reduce their use of nitrogen fertilizer in order to lower greenhouse gas emissions is facing pushback from business and agricultural groups, who argue it will reduce yields at a time when food security is a major concern. Again, I say this over and over again, right? I am not intrinsically opposed to the idea of fertilizer reduction, but I would take it a lot more seriously if we were actually trying to reduce fossil fuel emissions, right? Like, our fossil fuel emissions are going up, right? And we're not actually confronting it. We're not actually doing anything about it. And so this idea that we're demanding that farmers use less fertilizer and reduce emissions, right? Small farmers versus the industry. Yeah, and I think that's more what it is than anything, methane. That what this is actually a burden, what this is actually doing is it's going to bankrupt small farmers. It's going to chase small farmers out. It's going to force small farmers to sell so that larger farms can consolidate, right? And they'll create larger and larger farms. To me, that's what this is actually about. Yeah, no more private jets and yachts. Yeah, there's really basic shit we could be doing. Straight up. Tell Taylor Swift to stop using private jets. Straight up. Just, it's over. It's done. No more. Right? You do it, you go to jail. Very straightforward. Just tell Jeff Bezos, park that yacht. You use it, you go to jail. Very simple. Very straightforward. Right? You don't need to create like a lot of long-winded legislation. Like, these are one-liners, right? And throw Bezos on his yacht alone, see how he does. Yeah, he'll just use his entrepreneurship, right? That's what'll happen. And what's brilliant about articles like this is that they don't actually report on it the way we just talked about it, right? That it's going to be a burden to smaller farms, and smaller farms are going to have to sell to larger farms. That it's a way to consolidate power for the large farmers, right? For the large corporate farms. Like, that's clearly what it, and they're using climate change, they're using environmentalism as the excuse. And how do we know that they're not serious about confronting climate change? Because they're still like buying pipelines and building pipelines and fucking increasing production, right? They're still doing that shit. They don't care. Like, they don't care. This is just the way that they're trying to jam their policy of bankrupting the populace and extracting wealth from the populace into the hands of a small group of psychopathic elite. It's just the justification they're using. Oh yeah, we actually care about climate change, and so what we're doing is we're forcing everybody to reduce fertilizer, which is going to reduce crop yields, which is going to reduce the amount of money small farmers can get, which is going to bankrupt them and force them to sell. Right? That's what it's about. That's what it's actually about. Like, they don't care about climate change. They don't care at all. They have a 0% give a fuck about climate change. They're trying to bankrupt smaller farmers so that their owners can take control. That's all it is. And if anybody tells you, oh, well, they're doing it because they want to fight climate change, no. If they wanted to fight climate change, they would have nationalized the fossil fuel industry and begun forced reductions. They would shut the lights off on Yonge and Dundas Square. They would tell jet owners and yacht owners that they couldn't do their shit anymore. They'd be winding down their militarism. There's all kinds of things that they could do to stop this climate change catastrophe. But instead of that, what are they doing? Bankrupting farmers. That's what they're doing. So that they can transfer their land into the hands of, like, Bill Gates. So they can transfer their land into the hand of BlackRock, right? And what's crazy is, like, they're not being very secretive about that, right? Like, if you actually listen to what they say at these conferences, at, like, Davos and the WEF, like, that's what they say they want to do. And here they are doing it. And the gullible rubes who keep going to the ballot box and go, liberal! Yeah, the liberals are the best! Those fucking gullible rubes who seem to think that the liberals actually care about climate change are gonna be suckered by this, right? They're gonna be like, well, at least the liberals are trying to do something about climate, man. No, they're not. They don't care. They don't care. Doesn't matter. Like, they're just gonna go to their fucking bunkers. That's their plan. From the Denver Post, Colorado millennials, Gen Z, question saving money for a future that looks so bleak. Don't give in to hopelessness, financial advisor says. Just pay attention to finances so you won't retire to eat cat food. Financial planning? Passé for millennial Jenna Ozels. The 33-year-old's retirement plan rests firmly in the skeletal hands of the Grim Reaper. Between the fact that Social Security is completely depleted and retirement accounts are so tied to stocks that are going to get screwed over, retirement for me is an absolute fantasy, the Englewood resident said. Not to be macabre, but I make the joke that my retirement plan is just to die. What else am I going to do? According to a 2022 Fidelity Investment study on the state of retirement planning, 55% of the more than 2,500 adults surveyed between the ages of 18 and 35 with at least one investment account said they put their retirement planning on hold during the pandemic. 45% said they don't see a point in saving until things return to normal. Disenchanted with outlooks on the future, worsening climate crises, unstable economy, precarious politics, pandemic woes, unaffordable housing, some millennials and Generation Z Coloradans are choosing to forgo saving for an uncertain tomorrow and spend what they have while they can, according to Denver Post interviews. But a local financial planner and psychologist warns that while engaging in financial ennui, spending in the now and ignoring the anxiety-induced world to come, may feel good at a time when not much else does, it could come at a cost. The biggest mistake I see people make is to give in to hopelessness, says Brandon Wallace, a Denver financial advisor and fellow millennial. Things might be difficult, but if you just pay some attention to your finances, you won't retire to eat cat food. You'll retire in a way where you won't travel to Europe every year, but you won't have to worry about where you live when you're 75. Oh look, a financial investor telling you to give him your money and continue investing in a system that's completely failing. Big fucking shocker. Like, I've never heard a scam artist continue to scam people, right? That's... Dideri Santana, 20, knows she'll have to worry about retirement at some point, But the first-generation Mexican-American, who has spent most of her life working multiple jobs, including at her parents' Aurora restaurant, Tortisamas, is prioritizing her happiness. The University of Colorado Denver student lives with her family in Parker and saved $5,000 from her job at a Lifetime Fitness Club so she could spend the summer interning with the Madrid Film Institute in Spain. Not used to taking time off work, Santana was initially awash with guilt at the idea of leaving her parents and spending the money on something for her own enjoyment. But the pandemic helped put the experience into perspective for her. I realized if I die tomorrow, where is the money going to go? Santana said. It's going to go literally toward my funeral. Not exactly what I want. I have the money now and I'm going to do it. There's no point in having an emergency fund if you don't allow yourself to have opportunities to have emergencies. Santana's parents' work ethic has rubbed off on her. She paid her way through college loan-free, navigating financial aid by herself as the first person in her family to go to college. When she was 16, Santana took a high school finance class at the urging of her parents so she could help them with their taxes. I don't know anything about retirement, though, Santana said. My parents don't either. We've struggled a lot with money, and retirement has just never been in our sights. I don't even think about retirement because I see that the future is not guaranteed. Santana and Ozols are exactly the kind of clients financial advisor Wallace, 38, would like to help. Younger adults who could benefit with some empathetic guidance. Yeah, empathetic guidance right back into a financial system that's betraying them. Sure. However, not only does the age group simply lack the funds compared to the past generations, they also lack the trust in the traditional systems that have promised financial security in exchange for hard work, he said. It's hard to get a generation to want to save for a future when they are so convinced that there's not going to get much of a future, Wallace said. This is a generation that has seen so many systems we were told to believe and trust in repeatedly fail and disappoint us. Houses are being listed at $1 million, but they're being purchased for $1.6 million in cash, and they might be underwater with climate change in 30 years. And there's this growing rise of authoritarianism all over the world. It's hard to convince a 22-year-old to save when it doesn't look like we're going to make it. Generation Z ranges from ages 10 to 25, while millennials are between the ages of 26 and 41, according to Pew Research. Millennials are well behind other generations of the same age when it comes to wealth accumulation, according to a 2021 analysis on millennials' readiness for retirement by Boston College's Center for Retirement Research. According to the center's report, millennials face a world in which Social Security will provide less relative to pre-retirement earnings. 401k balances are generally meager, and half the private sector workforce lacks employer-sponsored retirement plans. The report places the blame for this inequality gap on millennials' student loan baggage. The share of young adult households with any student debt doubled from 1998 to 2016, according to Pew Research. The median amount of student debt was almost 50% greater for millennials, at $19,000, than for their Generation X predecessors, who held around $12,800 of loan debt when they were younger, the research found. Millennials' lack of wealth in their 30s relative to earlier cohorts should be a source of great concern, given that they will live longer than the previous cohorts and will receive less support from Social Security, the report reads. Families headed by people born in the 80s, older millennials, were about 34% below wealth expectations, a predicted level based on the wealth held by families in that generation and earlier generations at similar ages, according to a study published by the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis in 2018. An update of the study in 2021 found older millennials were faring better, at 11% below wealth expectations. However, this update did not account for the pandemic's impact on finances. What's the point? While studies suggest millennials will live longer, Ozols said COVID-19 has proven to her that life is short. We could be gone tomorrow, and I would so much rather get avocado on my toast or go on that trip I've always wanted to go on, said Ozols, who just hit a six-figure income working in political consulting and has about $8,000 in retirement. It's not going to be more money toward my savings, but what do my savings even matter, she said. I have given up on the idea of putting a savings together. Everything just keeps getting more expensive. We've got summers where we can't even go outside because you can't breathe the smoky air. I can't outbid a bank to buy a house. And then there's a car repair or medical bill and the money is gone again. What's the point? Ozuls recognizes she has a good job and is making decent money, but without a dual income or family money, moving up seems out of reach. For years, Ozuls deprived herself of a dog, convinced she had to wait to be a homeowner with more stable income and savings racked up. The last few years have really showed me that the future I envisioned might not exist, and a dog would make me really happy right now, Ozuls said. She recently pulled the trigger and welcomed a furry friend, Evie, into her Englewood apartment. It does feel freeing to just accept that all these milestones you were expected to hit, you might not hit them. And rather than building your life and try to hit these milestones, living the life that is just happiness for the moment is like a weight off my shoulders, Ozuls said. Any weight off my shoulders right now is needed. Psychologist June Gruber studies well-being, emotions, and happiness, and is an associate professor of psychology and neuroscience in the University of Colorado Boulder. Gruber and her team are raising funds to study how people are coping with the multi-pronged stressors of our world. Millennials and Gen Z, she said, have had to contend with greater uncertainties about the future in unprecedented ways. I think that this has created a significant amount of uncertainty and a lot of emotional challenges, Gruber said. The uncertain and often bleak outlook that can present itself in the future really poses a challenge for millennials and has called on them to become more tolerant of distress and become more emotionally flexible to adapt to it. To cope, Gruber believes this cohort has started focusing more on the here and now and less on the future. This growing present focus among millennials is a more distracted coping mechanism versus a way to be truly present with your anxiety and thoughts and feelings in the moment, Gruber said. In the short run, distraction can help ease stress. But if we do this repeatedly, we end up avoiding what's happening in our lives in this moment. In the doldrums of the pandemic, Dylan Gardner and his wife sprang for an upgraded Peloton exercise bike. They bought a brand new Tesla. They aspire to prioritize international travel. Gardner, 30, is in residential land development, while his wife, Tiffany, is finishing up her residency at Denver Health. The couple, who own a home in Aurora and rent the basement as an Airbnb property, bring in about $200,000 to $300,000 a year combined. Once the Gardners started making more money, they began investing in the stock market. But the past few years have caused Gardner to hesitate. The state of the world is definitely a hindrance to expecting immediate returns from investment, or even positive value on a long-term basis, which makes me pause before dropping large sums of money on a single stock, Gardner said. Gardner still does invest, but only through his employer's 401k program. I'm less inclined to put money into the stock market until it normalizes, whatever that means going forward, and more inclined to pay down my mortgage or my car payments, Gardner said. As of late, my wife and I are putting more of a priority on traveling, buying nice material things, and eating at nice restaurants. So in that regard, yes, we are allocating more money to shorter-term things that make our life better in this current environment. Still, the Gardners hope to retire early, maybe even by 40, and live off their investments and retirement savings. They described themselves as nerdy when it came to retirement savings. Wallace, the financial advisor, says that's a good thing. The best advice Wallace can give someone is to see a financial planner, if they have the ability to do so, and let them help you to set goals, budgets, and get you to where you want to be money-wise in a feasible time frame. If a planner is out of reach, Wallace suggested free resources like finance podcasts or social media influencers who share advice for the average person. He recommended TikTok user Madeline Pendleton for accessible money advice. It comes down to lack of financial education given to us, a lack of trust in the institutions, lack of faith it will pay off, and lack of access to resources to get your foot in the door, Wallace said. All these swirl together and create a situation where there is very, very, very difficult to get young people engaged in financial planning. I want to manage their money, but they need to have money first, right? So all of this and the end point is reinvest in the system that's betraying you. up until I'd say this point here, right? This article had something going for it, right? And then it turned the corner, venerated, the wealthy in the society, told you to go to fucking TikTok, right? Reinvest in a dead system that's absolutely betraying you. Like, these people are going to be betrayed. I don't understand how you don't understand this, right? That they're going to invest into the system and it's going to turn around and steal that money from them. That's the point. That's the whole point. Like, no one's going to escape this, right? The system is designed to collapse. It's designed to collapse. That the people who are saying, I don't trust this system, are right. Parents own a restaurant. She spent the summer in Spain. Doesn't really sound like too big a struggle to me. Yeah. Like, and who are they talking to? Like, who are the people they're reporting on? Right? Sounds like middle class, upper middle class people to me. Right? These people literally have, like, are you guys making $200,000 to $300,000 a year combined? Are you making that kind of money? No. Weird, right? Weird. The article itself is saying, like, oh, we've got, like, way less wealth than previous generations. So let's talk to the richest people, see how they're doing, right? Like, what a fucking sob story. Oh, I'm struggling to invest. Get fucked. Like, get completely fucked. So here's an article that, and it does the thing that all of these articles do, right? It gives the correct narrative that Millennial and Gen Z has been betrayed, and we understand that we've been betrayed, right? And this is how I talk about it and how everybody should talk about it. Like, if you are a Millennial or if you are Gen Z, you have been betrayed. There's no other way to discuss it. And if the Gen X and Boomers scoff at it, then they're just laughing at the successful betrayal, right? Get over being gaslit. These people are treasonous. They've betrayed you on purpose to extract wealth away from you. It's obvious that has happened. It's obvious that has happened. And now finally we're starting to get articles that actually acknowledge it. And what's the solution that they're putting forward? They're just putting it back on you. Right? It's up to you. You're the one responsible for improving after we betrayed you. Continue reinvesting in the society. Continue reinvesting so that we can betray you again. Continue being betrayed. Continue setting yourself up for betrayal. No. The time for revolution is now. The time to organize people around you. The time to find people who are wanting to push the society towards full-scale revolution is now. We have been utterly betrayed. Utterly betrayed. And they will tell us when it comes time for us to fall into our old age. They will say, well, here's this medically assisted dying program. They will say that to us. These people are psychopaths. They don't care about you. They don't care about you in the slightest. They care about getting your money and your votes. Yeah, finance TikTok, what the fuck exactly? Yeah, the whole investing direction of the article, terribly misguided. Yeah, continue giving your money to the people who are betraying you. Yeah, continue taking your money and give it to the people who are utterly betraying you. They're certainly not going to crash the stock market and extract that wealth. Right? But no, that won't happen again for the 5th time in my lifetime. Like, just give me enough money to invest in everything Nancy Pelosi does. She's got the inside line and nobody cares. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's just, nobody cares. Like, nobody gives a shit. And the advice that we're getting is this dumb, like, continue reinvesting in a system that's utterly betrayed you. Completely betrayed you. Like, this is the dumb fuckery that we have to deal with as millennials. And I'm over it. Like, I'm over it. Fuck you. Like, go get fucked. Maybe stop voting for psychopaths. Right? Maybe we should actually seize control of the means of production and tell these psychos to go to jail. Lock them in these underground bunkers and forget about them. Right? Pretty straightforward shit, if you ask me. What a dumb society. What a dumb fuck society. Like, and everybody just keeps going to work. Right? Everybody just keeps going to work. Everybody just keeps fucking around. Right? Time to disconnect completely. Burn your IDs. Go off grid. It's the only way. Back to growing it all ourselves. Do it all from scratch, I say. Yeah. Invest in communist co-ops. Crowdsource the revolution. I think about that all the time. I've got friends that can keep finding like properties out in the boonies, and they're just like, oh yeah, we could go. Like, we could do it. Right? Like, we just start something out. I know for myself, I'm like, it would be really nice to be out in like a rural place and like raise bees. That's what I would do. I would create a beehive, like a bee colony. That's what I would do, and I would be focused on honey production. Is what I would focus on, and then we'd use those bees to garden, right? Get that all set up and ready to go, and it's and the truth is that as this system continues to fail, like, eventually people will be confronted with the reality of working their life away for a small postage stamp like apartment in a city that's actively falling down around them, or just like escape back to the woods, right? People are going to start choosing the woods. Like, there's no, like, the empire is dying. It's forgotten its reason for existing. And there's just not going to be a recovery for it. Because as the thing is dying, and as people are reporting on it dying, their solutions are reinvest in the dying system. To which our response should be a scoff and no thank you. Like, the gaslighting is the absolute worst part at this stage. The gaslighting. The Jordan Peterson-esque, it's you. You're the problem. Well, I'm old enough now to know how farcical that actually is. It's that's the type of narrative that you can buy into if you're still a little boy, like Peterson is, right? If you're still a little boy, if you're still a little girl, you can believe the idea that the real problem is you. Ignore the gigantic systems, ignore the government, ignore these massive corporations, ignore the international community, ignore the enormous powerful structures that are around you, ignore the media, ignore any of that. No, the real problem is you. It's your responsibility. Get fucked. Get completely fucked. 3D printing. Yeah, you're big on the 3D printing, eh, Anemone? You're way bigger on the 3D printing than I am. I just like, and it's not that I'm against 3D printing. Let me be really clear. I'm just, I'm completely a minimalist. A minimalist. Although, I wonder if with 3D printing, if I could print my own hives and my own frames. I wonder if that would be possible. How possible do you think that would be, Anemone? To print out my own... Yeah, if you can print houses, you could probably print frames. What material does the 3D printing? I just wonder if it would be cheaper or more effective. Because, like, 3D printing your own hive, like, hold on. Can you 3D print a beehive? A production of one 3D printed bee box currently runs about $900. A regular timber box could be as low as $100. Yeah, that's kind of what I expected. That's kind of what I expected, honestly. Dude, I'm going to spend the last 10 minutes talking about beehives. And nobody can fucking stop me. Beehive. The invention of the, what is it, the Lundstrom box? Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, here they are. How to build a beehive. Let's go. Langstroth. That's what it is. Langstroth hive. It is much easier than you think. The Langstroth hive. Go away. It's, yeah, here it is. This is comprehensive. Yeah, this is super comprehensive. I love it. Have a good night, Eric. The invention of this particular hive box is, in my view, one of the last great innovations of humanity. Like, before the invention of this type of hive, we basically kept bees in wicker baskets. And the bees would make the honeycomb in the wicker basket, and then to get the honey out of the basket, we had to destroy the hive, right? Scattering the bees, right? You lose the colony to get the honey. The invention of the Langstroth beehive, so named because the fellow who did it had the name Langstroth, is... oh yeah, I know about the Brickworks. I work at the Brickworks, right? And the Royal York Hotel, yeah. And there's a church just down over here that has hives as well. No, the problem with having a hive in the city is all it takes is one Karen, right? All it takes, like, and all the good places, so like the churches, the parks, the community gardens, the top of hotels, the top of hospitals, all that, they're all taken, right? And so what's left is people's houses. And so you ask a person, even if you find a yes, right? Well, then you ask the neighbors, and all it takes is one Karen, just being like, I don't want a bee. Bees sting people. I don't want bees around. Bees are bad. That's all it takes, right? Far more successful to do out in rural properties, because once you're out on a rural property, you don't need to ask permission. Like, you don't need to ask your neighbor's permission anymore, because you're far enough away. But, like, all it takes is, like, the outer cover, right? The inner cover. This allows the bees to come in and out of the colony, as you can see, right? They come up through this hole, and they escape through here, right? The outer cover offers protection. So it's easy for the bees to come in and out because they know where the exit and the entrance to the thing is, whereas another critter doesn't necessarily know where it is, right? This here, the honey super, so you got the shallow frames, and the reason why you use shallow frames instead of the deep frame is because honey's heavy. Honey's heavy. You can use a deep frame, but good luck, because you're going to lift this. And honey's heavy in these quantities, not to mention the boxes and the frames and all that themselves. And so what you do is you take these frames, and Langstroth figured out that there's such a thing as a bee width, right? What he calls a bee width. And these frames are designed to perfectly meet that width. And what that width is it's the width that bees will not fill, right, with wax. So if there's, I think it's 3/4 of an inch of space, they won't fill it in. So that means that you can create a perfect frame of honey, and which you can see right like here, and they won't create it so it won't connect to the other frames. Or if it does, it's easy to take a hive tool and just split it, right? And so what you do is you put a super here, with a queen excluder, right? And what this does is it allows regular bees to go in between the hive body and the honey super, but it doesn't allow the queen to, because the queen's too big. Can't get into this area. And why is that important? Because the queen will plant eggs in the honey super, right? So you want the queen to continue planting eggs only in the hive body. It also allows you to control the size of the hive and the colony itself, which can be important for various reasons, right? And then you've got the entrance reducer, the bottom floorboard. And the real beauty of all of this is you can put many honey supers on, and if you remove like the hive body itself will have honey in it, and so you can feel pretty safe just taking the honey super itself. You can do this anywhere, dude. You can do this anywhere. All you need is you need to ensure that the bees have access to food and water, and make sure they're in a shaded environment, right? So if they don't have direct sunlight on them, right? Because the hive can heat up. The hive can get heated, and the bees can die from just being roasted, right? That's completely possible, especially these days. But as long as they have access to a water source, and they've got somewhere to go where they can easily pollinate, you can do this anywhere. You can do this literally anywhere. Like this is the thing that pisses me off so much about how stupid people are, and how stupid Canadians are generally. Like literally, you could do this on your balcony. You don't need like a big rooftop or anything. Like, for real. If you've got a space that's this big, you can do it. If you can fit this box into that space, you can do it. The city ordinances, the only rules are that the hive has to be 30 feet away from a property line. That's the city rule. That's the rule across Ontario. It's got to be 30 feet away from a property line. But that includes vertically, right? That's why rooftop bee farming or beehives are fine, because most of the time, if you've got a hive up on a roof, it's 30 feet away from the property line. So I think in this case, in the apartment sense, the property line also would be between you and your neighbor. So you would have to get permission from your neighbors, right? But this is what I'm talking about. Like, why? Like, why? Like, this is what I'm talking about when I'm saying, like, we don't need to follow these rules. Like, laws, like, Voldemort's laws don't apply. Like, Darth Vader's laws don't apply. Like, it's gotten really obvious that we're being ruled by people who are evil, like dark figures in the history of humanity. And like, yeah, what are the rules? I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care. Like, it's like, if you get caught, it'll be a bad time for you, obviously, and it's easy to get caught. Hives are not quiet, right? They're not quiet. They're full of bees. You're obviously gonna have bees going in and out all the time, right? So you will be caught. Like, it's there's no such thing as a secret colony, right? A secret hive. That's not gonna happen. And yep, just takes one neighbor to claim their kid got stung. Don't even need to prove it. Don't even do anything. Exactly. Yep. That's it. And that's why rooftop hives are usually successful, right? Like, that's why because if you're on the rooftop, like, you get stung by a bee, you can't show like it was this specific hive and this specific place that specifically was responsible. Like bees are everywhere and they're out everywhere. This is kind of what I keep talking about when I keep saying like this place could be much nicer, right? Like if every apartment building had a bee colony on it, had a beehive, had a series of beehives on it, well, that's only going to make everything better, right? Bees pollinate naturally. They just literally by going around, they happily make fruit, vegetables, trees better. They produce honey for everyone to enjoy, right? But we're not interested in that. If you can't create like an industrial colony, like 400 hives, if you can't industrialize it and do that, then only capitalism will criminalize nature. Exactly. Yeah. Well, and industrial capitalists, they don't want people to have their own hives and do it themselves. They're disinterested in that. Yeah, a beehive and a rooftop garden on every building. Exactly. There's no reason we can't do it. Right? The only reason we can't do it is because it doesn't benefit the psychopath class. That the psychopath class is disincentivized to allow it to occur. Because like they're trying to bankrupt small farmers right now. Right? They're trying to get rid of small farmers. The last thing they want is people in cities to start farming themselves. They don't want that. Hey Watson, good to see you, bud. It's kind of an indirect enclosure of the commons. Yeah. And really, like, all I really want to do is have some hives. You get to a place, and I'm like turning 40 soon. I wouldn't say I'm having a midlife crisis. I don't think that's the case. But definitely I'm at a place where I'm like, what do I want to do? What do I think I'm here to do? And I say this all the time on this channel. Like, investigate yourself. Sit down. Have a thought. Have a think. Why are you here? What are you here to do? What are you here to accomplish? You're not here to make money for these psychos. That's not what you're here for. What are you here for? And when I ask myself that question, the answers I come up with are, first of all, this, right? I think that this is something I want to do. But also, I would love to have a little garden and some hives. I look back on my life and I think what was the valuable work that I did and what was something that I would consider positive in the world for myself. And certainly when I was working with hives, that was a real beneficial and positive moment in my life, and I would love to be involved in that again. It's just fucking impossible to do in this city, which is anti-life and just anti-success and anti-society, right? Wouldn't just a super local hive be better? Like dedicated hives on a block, which can be away from the... Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. That would require some organization, though. And there would need to be, like, and again, cotton, like, literally all it takes is one Karen. That's all it takes, is just one Karen being like, beans, and that's the end of it. It's over. John, look into microgreens. Microgreens. No, I don't think. What are microgreens and why should you care? The ongoing joke about fine dining is that the dishes that come out of it will never leave you full. Microscopic servings of food on large plates. It's not for those who have an appetite. Well, it looks like there's a method to chef's madness. You've seen these little greens, formerly known as microgreens, stylishly topping your meal as garnishes or dressed as vinaigrettes as salad. But what exactly are microgreens, other than the obvious fact that they are very small in size? Microgreens are essentially seedlings of edible vegetables and herbs, and while they're hugely popular now, seemingly available to every cafe and restaurant, microgreens have actually been incorporated into dishes of many chefs since the 80s. Their vibrancy and delicacy make for an obvious choice in terms of visual appeal. They are loaded with nutrients, vitamin C, E, and K. Okay. You can grow them in an urban cultivator appliance. Yeah. Microgreens. Microgreens. That'd be kind of cool. That'd be cool to set something up like that. I actually have a friend that does this. She's got like a little grow thing that she uses to grow all kinds of plants, and she has a front yard garden. I really love what she does with gardening and all of this, and she's the one who's constantly like, man, I could just move out to like a rural town and actually become a gardener, become a farmer, and like just do it. And like, I think all the time, like how easy it would be to just like, the trouble, of course, is like the structure of our society won't allow people, like we don't have startup capital. Like that's the problem. You don't have startup capital, and you can't convince capitalists to relinquish some of their capital to allow people to pursue this kind of stuff, because the goal isn't to be like an industrial farmer, right? Like you're not trying to be like this. We're gonna make $1 million a day, right? Like you're not trying for that. You're just trying to live like a peaceful existence, right? You're just trying to have a nice existence, quietly making sure that bees are safe and that you're producing enough food and vegetable for yourself and maybe some other people, right? Yeah, no need to focus specifically on microgreens. Always be wary of popular buzzwords and fads. Yeah, lots of underrated edible plants people call weeds these days. To me, the number one, like, the sin of our society is that we have golf courses and we have people with big yards, and they literally will spend like hundreds and hundreds of dollars to like ensure that they've got a nice lawn. And I'm just like, what a fucking waste of time. So goddamn stupid. Yep, land is expensive, especially when they want to run highways and pipelines through it. Yeah. We can dream of a rational society one day. I do all the time. I dream of a day when a person's labor is their own. When what a person does isn't to enrich some worthless investor class who produce nothing of value, but is to improve themselves and their neighborhood. And I just feel like it would be so easy for us. That's the deep shame of all of this, you know? I don't think it would actually be difficult. Because what we're doing now is worse than doing nothing. You know? It's worse than doing nothing. That we would be better off doing nothing. Focusing on growing food for the populace. Investing our time in infrastructure. Investing our time in ensuring everyone has access to shelter. I actually think it would be a very simple endeavor. It's just that things have been made complicated. It's been made complicated, and it's been made complicated on purpose. That's the thing that surprises me. I shouldn't say surprises me, but that's the thing that I think about the most. How things have been made complicated on purpose to justify this worthless system that provides no value for anyone. Like, there's no value in finance capital. There's nothing done there that improves the quality of life for anyone. Right? And this argument they use well, an investor invests money and then that person takes the money, and it's just this circuitous nonsense cycle that doesn't need to exist, nor should it. That you could very easily have publicly owned banks that you could walk into and be like, we would like to start a beehive, a bee colony. And the bank would be like, oh, wow, a bee colony sounds great to have in the neighborhood. What do you need? And it'd be a publicly owned institution that would operate for the benefit of the public, not on a profit model. You could easily have that. You could set that up in a day. It would be no problem. We just don't, because finance capitalists don't want that, right? They want to ensure that you're enslaved to a system of capital, and that the system is designed to enrich them and impoverish you, while you do all the work and they do nothing. That's the structure of it. That's how it works. And this idea that this is somehow natural, I think is a manic craze. That we've convinced ourselves that it's totally natural to erect worthless systems that destroy themselves and everything around them. Like, yet the lack of efficiency for no good reason scratches at the insides of my soul in a terrible way every day. Yep. And moreover, this is the part of it that's going to be really fascinating to watch. And I feel like it's important for all of us to make peace with the fact that we are going to watch it happen. It's going to get obvious. Like, I feel like it already has gotten obvious. But the difference is that there are people like us who acknowledge it and are just watching it happen in protest, and people who know it's happening but haven't found the way to articulate it or are attempting to distract themselves from it. But it is going to get incredibly obvious sooner than you think. There's just going to be moments coming where the worthlessness of this pathetic finance system of capital Watson, you missed me talking about that earlier. I think it's theatrics mainly. Just a way to whip up the base, a way to keep people invested in the system. That's more or less what I think we're looking at. Like, I don't think the FBI's raiding of it's not gonna like, Trump's not going to jail. Like, they're not going to even prosecute him or anything. And the right-wing response to Trump has been defund the FBI and oh my God, like, what a catastrophe and all. It's just a way to keep people invested in the system and to pretend as though the system has validity. That's how I view it. That it from the Democrats' position, it's a way to turn to their base and say, oh yeah, in its call for open violence, of course. But the number one thing that's coming out of it, Watson, is, yeah, it's got open calls to violence, it's got all that kind of stuff, absolutely. But the number one thing that they're all saying is, so you got to get out and vote. Vote harder. You got to get out and vote. Because that's what matters the most to these people. That's the number one thing that matters the most. It doesn't matter that much to the power structure if it's Trump versus Biden. That really doesn't matter. Like, if it's Biden that gets in, if it's Trump that gets in, oh well. Right? They still get their tax cuts, they still get their imperialism, they still get all of the stuff that they want. So it's Trump versus Biden, it doesn't matter. They get what they want, no matter what. What matters way more, is that the society doesn't recognize that the system itself has delegitimized itself. And it has. Completely. It doesn't respond to the needs of the people. It's not interested in responding. It's as valid as a government run by Voldemort. It's as valid as a government run by Darth Vader. Like, you don't need to obey these laws. Like, the only reason to obey the law is to not get beat up by cops. But they'll do it to you anyway. So the legitimacy of the system itself is of concern. And so this moment, the invading of Mar-a-Lago by the Biden administration, although it turns out that they didn't even tell Biden that they were doing it. Well, what's it do? It galvanizes both bases, right? It says to the Democrats, look, we're doing something. Come vote. And it says to the Republicans, how dare they do that to us? Come vote. And so it's an effort to legitimize a delegitimized system and to create a battleground that benefits the powerful completely, and to pretend as though to continue pretending as though the actual argument is between the Democrats and the Republicans instead of the proletariat versus the bourgeoisie, right? Like it's utterly like it doesn't matter. Like, and even if, because here's the thing that I always say, even if they find something, they charge Trump with something, they go through the trial process, they take Trump and they lock him up, and they actually punish him, and there's actually all of the hoopla and all of that kind of stuff, what's the result? Well, some people are going to go vote for the blue fascist, and some people are going to go vote for the red fascist. And the result is no change whatsoever, and it's completely meaningless. And everybody just spent all of their time being entertained by a distraction that doesn't matter whatsoever. It has no bearing on the result of what's going to happen in the country. Like, it's fun theater. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, if you want to see somebody actually really enjoying this, by the way, like, if you want to see somebody who's really investing in this narrative of the Trump thing, go watch Hassan. Hassan's full pushed in, man. Like, he's and I'm fine with that. Like, I'm not saying this to indict him. In fact, I'm saying it to promote him. I think he's doing great work on it. He's really reveling in the theater, right? But that's all it is. It's just theater. It's not actual politics. It's not real. Because in the end of the day, the result is that the power stays in exactly where it is. It's just, do you want it to be blue or red? That's all. Yeah, distraction and diversion all rolled into one. What more could you, and even better than that, methane. Distraction and diversion dressed up and sold as politics. That's the best part about it. That's the part about it that makes me go that it's not like Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, right? It's not like the O.J. Simpson trial. It's not like Anna Nicole Smith's death, right? It's not that kind of distraction. It's not like Michael Jackson's trial, right? It's not that kind of distraction. It's a distraction. It's more like Bill Clinton's sex scandal, right? So instead of talking about Clinton's bombing of Kosovo, right? Instead of talking about that, you got to talk about this other thing and pretend as though it's politics, right? That, Clinton's getting impeached, and oh my God, and can you believe what he did with this intern and the sex scandal? Nobody gave a shit that he was literally committing war crimes in the Eastern Bloc. Like, nobody cared because nobody talked about it. It was completely disinterested, right? And everybody got to pretend like they were engaged in politics and got to pretend as though that they cared about what was going on in the political sphere of their society when it was irrelevant, didn't matter at all. And I see the very same thing happening here. That's just, it doesn't really matter. Like the end result is the same. It's just a pretend situation used to distract and divide people while they pretend as though what they're invested in is a political system when it's nothing of the sort. It's a mass theater. That's what it is. It's WWE style theater. That we, the audience, are an intrinsic part of the theatrical experience. And I remember during the pandemic, WWE tried to keep going, right? And one of the things that they did initially was they tried to do it without the audience. So they just broadcast it, and there was no audience. And it was awful. It was awful. It was unwatchable. The whole time you were just like, oh, the whole time. Like, it was the definition of cringe. Because an intrinsic ingredient is the audience. And so their solution to this was to fill the stadium with screens so that people could tune in via Zoom and then from the safety of their own thing, cheer. And it completely worked. You had the entire stadium filled with faces, screaming at the action that was happening. And it was the same action, the same story, the same stuff, but because the audience was there cheering it on, it became alive. It became real again. It became, it legitimized itself. Right? And the true reality is that if the populace stopped cheering, if the populace stopped watching it, if the populace turned away from it and engaged in real politics, then it would be seen for what it is, which is cringy and embarrassing. A pathetic attempt by a dead system to legitimize itself when it has no legitimacy whatsoever. And the fact that the Trumpers and the Republicans are calling for violence and open violence and all that kind of stuff, that's not new. And like that trajectory is coming anyway. Right? This moment, like if the Democrats actually cared about that, they would never have done this. Right? That they're using that. They're using that as a way to continue galvanizing attention and legitimizing a system that has no legitimacy. That's my position on it. It's completely theater. Like it's not even close to politics in any meaningful way. Like you talking to your neighbor about what's happening in your neighborhood is closer to politics than any of this shit. Like true politics is now in the union houses. It's between you and your neighbors. It's you going to your local church. It's creating community groups. It's investing your time and your energy into people who are attempting to foment protest. Hello, how you doing? Hi. Right? That's politics. The shit that's coming out of the White House and the Congress and the Senate and all that kind of shit, it's not politics. And engaging in it as if it is, like, you can engage with it. That's fine. But it's not politics. All right, guys. This is the end of this one. Thanks for coming. It's such a blessing that you're all here every single time. Please like, please share, please subscribe. If you've got $1 jangling around your pocket, think about sending it my way. If you're donating $1 at the Patreon, maybe make it $2. Right? I appreciate your support in every single way that you can give it. Always remember, each and every one of you is a quantum being, walking around in quantum energy. The billionaire class is spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes you'll never realize it. You'll just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel, revolt, repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.